Please be seated. Order. Honorable members, I wish to announce that the vacancy which occurred in the National Assembly owing to the resignation of Mr. A.M. Mudau has been filled with effect from the 14th February by the nomination of Mr. B. Mulife.
Honourable Speaker.
The honourable member was sworn in the Speaker's office
Point of
earlier
order.
today.
Point of order, Speaker. Where is that corrupt bastard?
Honourable Speaker.
I would like to welcome the honourable member
Speaker.
to
Honourable
the
Speaker.
House.
Would
Yes,
rise-
Honourable
would like
Whip.
to rise on a on a point of order
What's the point of order, honourable?
regarding the language used by the honourable member to call someone in that insulting name. He must definitely withdraw or face the might of this house. It's in the house here. Thank you so much.
Who was the honourable member? Do you know? Honourable Mbata. Honourable Mbata, would you like to withdraw? Honourable Mbata.
Speaker.
Honourable Mbata. Honourable Mbata. I will recognize your voice in the Hansard recording. What is the issue, Honourable Shibambu?
Speaker,
I
last
see you
week
are
we-
on your feet. Yes, Honourable
last
Shibambu.
week we wrote you a letter about Parliament Communications announcing a Brian Mulife who is going to be sworn in. Then you questioned a principal issue of since where do Parliament do party political communication about an issue? So I hear mentioning a Brian Mulife who is being sworn in.
Honourable
What is the
Shibambu,
relevance
that's
of
not a point of order.
happening? What
The
should we do
letter
because we wrote
you are
letter
referring
you?
to has not yet be dealt with in my office. I will see it and only then
Because
we'll
it
deal
must
with
not
the
be
issue.
that when Guptas deploy people to Parliament. then it
Honourable
must be
Shibambu,
announced
please
by
take your
Parliament.
seat.
We cannot be abused by
Honourable
Guptas when they
members,
announce
the
people
first item
with
on the
process
order
of
paper
Parliament. It must be
is
discontinued.
a motion in the name of the Chief Whip of the Majority Party. The Honourable the Chief Whip.
Honourable Speaker, I've had my hand up.
Yes, Honourable Carter.
Honourable Speaker, mine is just a point of clarity. I would like to find out if True North has changed direction in this House, because my immorality compass is showing directly to the Honourable Lefe now.
Honourable member, that's not a point of order. Honourable Chief Whip, could you please proceed with the motion in your name?
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. Honourable Speaker, we move that the House extends the deadline by which the ad hoc committee on the filling of vacancies in the Commission for Gender Equality has to report to the 31st March this year, 2017. I thank you, Honourable Speaker.
I now put the motion. Are there any objections? No objections agreed to. The last motion on the order paper is also in the name of the Chief Whip of the Majority Party. Honourable Chief Whip.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. This House notes a request from the Commission of Inquiry into Higher Education and Training that the representatives of the Portfolio Committee on Higher Education and Training, Standing Committee on Finance and Standing Committee on Appropriations appear before it to provide testimony under oath on a number of key policy and factual issues. that the House resolves in terms of Section 10(1) of the Powers, Privileges and Immunities of Parliament and Provincial Legislatures Act of 2004 that Honorable Ms. C. September, Honorable Y.I. Karim, and Honorable Ms. Y.N. Posa, as chairpersons of the respective committees, be granted leave to provide testimony before the Commission on key policy and factual issues as identified by the Commission. I so move, Honourable Speaker.
I now put the motion. Are there any objections? No objections. Agreed to. The next item on the order paper is the statement by the Minister of Health on the circumstances surrounding the deaths of mentally ill patients. The Honourable, the Minister.
Honorable Speaker, colleague ministers, deputy ministers, honorable members of the House, Honorable Speaker, let me start by acknowledging the presence in the gallery of representatives of members of the families affected by this tragedy. They are Mr. Andrew Peterson, Mr. Nomvula Njabe, and Ms. Agnes Molotwa. I'm sure they may stand up. Needless to say, we are deeply distressed and angered by the
Namukelekile. Thank you very much for your coming.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Siyabonga.
Yes. Needless to say, we are deeply distressed and angered by the death of mentally ill patients that were transferred from life in the main mental health facility in Gauteng. This constitutes one of the periods of darkness in the history of our country. And I say it was also a moment of madness in the Provincial Health Department. Our anguish is exacerbated by the fact that the disease constitutes some of the most vulnerable members of society who are in need of even more protection than the rest of society. That the idea behind Gauteng Mental Health Marathon Project, as it came to be known, was to save money, adds another dimension to our disappointment and pain. I wish to put on record that at no stage did it emerge, directly or indirectly, implicitly or explicitly, that the Department of Health nationally or in any province has run out of money to take care of mentally ill patients. There was hence no reason for so many vulnerable people to perish on account of money. I interrogated this issue with the Premier of Gauteng Province because I wanted to understand what actually the Executive Council in the province discussed and approved. He told me that the issue never featured on the agenda of the Executive Council, but that he, as the Premier, was told that the Department of Health has 4,000 beds in public health institutions, which they would like to use, and that there's absolutely no reason to continue contracting private service providers when the public sector can provide that number of beds. This august House must please note that the ACDMANI contract was for 2,000 patients. Hence, the statement from the department to the Premier was to the effect that they can accommodate them twice. The Premier assures me that at no time was the issue of NGOs ever raised until that fateful day in September, when the MEC made the announcement of 30 seats in provincial legislature. At the national level, we have got the MINMEC. Like all the MINMECs, it consists of the minister and MECs, but in addition, the MINMEC at the national level has the Surgeon General of South African Military Health Service and SACA. It is therefore a statutory body. When there are huge undertakings in health or elsewhere that may affect health, the MINMEC usually sits and even go into recess. We did so with the FIFA World Cup. We did so before the president launched the huge 8-city campaign to test 15 million South Africans. We did so in the advent of Ebola 2014. I want to state here today that the issue of moving health patients in Gauteng, which clearly falls within this category, have never been mentioned, even once, in the National Health Council to be dealt with like all the other major events. We take the death of so many citizens in very serious light and therefore like justice. not only to prevail, but also seen to be done. I believe by now, Parliament more or less knows what happened. Hence, I wish to spend time explaining what we have done. As we have come to understand it, the Department of Health wanted to move mentally ill patients out of life is many. When families were informed of this, they objected because they were satisfied about life is many. Together with South African Depression and Anxiety Group and the South African Federation of Mental Health, they approached Section 27 to take up the matter with them at the provincial level. When Section 27 realized they are not going anywhere with the provincial department, they prepared to go to court. While the court case was set, they conducted the Director General in the National Department of Health and informed her of this problem and the court case, and that the Minister and the Premier of Gauteng will be cited even though no relief is being sought against them. The matter was set for the 22nd of December 2015. However, on the 21st of December, a day before the case, the parties decided to enter into a settlement agreement and not go to court. The settlement agreement was very clear and simple. Among others, it stated, 1, that the parties shall henceforth engage in discussion aimed at resolving the dispute between them by no later than the 31st of January 2016. 2, for avoidance of doubt, the Gauteng Department of Health shall maintain the status quo by not placing users from life is remaining facilities in any other facility pending the conclusion of the settlement. 3, that the outcome of the settlement discussion is intended to inter alia address the plan for the placement of users following the termination of the contract between Gauteng Department of Health and its domain. And 4, all stakeholders shall endeavor to reach an agreed plan by no later than 31st January, guided by the constitutional imperative on the Gauteng Department of Health, and shall at very least endeavor that users receive health and other services of no lesser quality to the services that they are currently receiving at life is demanding in order to protect, promote, and their constitutional rights. This, honorable members, is what the parties signed for and agreed upon. And they said there was no need to make it an order of court because they are all in agreement. This, honorable member, please know that the agreement says nothing about NGOs. It just emphasizes that wherever they are being taken to must be places of no less quality than life is demanding. I interrogated this issue, Section 27, and they said they had no reason to suspect that anybody was planning any foul play, and hence did not insist on the agreement being made an order of court, and they had informed the Director General of Health this effect immediately after signing. Unfortunately, as it is, Gauteng Department of Health did not honor the agreement at all, and in March 2016, Section 27 rushed to court when they heard that they are about to start moving patients, contrary to the agreement. This time, they did not inform the National Director General of this development because they wanted an urgent court interdict. Unfortunately, the Gauteng Department of Health was able to convince the court that they are honoring the plan, that they will not deviate from the agreement, that wherever they move the patients, it will be in line with the agreement, that the services will be no less than lesser than the quality that at life is demanding. Hence, the court dismissed the Section 27 interdict. Armed with this court case, the Gauteng Department of Health fobbed off any attempts by the National Director General and the National Chief Director of Mental Health, who are supposed to have been invited to all the meetings in Gauteng where the plan was tabled and executed. They said that the court of law was agreeing with them on every issue. But what happened next is completely against what they told the court. Firstly, NGOs were issued invalid licenses, as the health impact discovered later. The licenses were issued by the Director of Mental Health instead of the HOD. Secondly, the NGOs went to life is many to pick up patients on their own and brought them to their homes without files, without diagnosis, without all the necessary ingredients. It was difficult for relatives to know where they are. It was in September 2016 when the MEC announced in the provincial legislature that we realized that something's gone dangerously wrong. And I hence appointed the health ombuds to investigate what actually happened and who did what. The health ombuds made findings that this project was indeed negligent, chaotic, and hurried, but also violated the rights of mentally ill patients. and went totally against the principles of health, the preservation of life, which the preservation of life and not the opposite. There were in all 8 recommendations. In carrying them religiously, we want to correct anomalies that happened. The first serious anomaly we picked up in Gauteng National Provincial Department was that the Mental Health Act and the National Mental Health Policy Framework were not followed. One of the findings of the UMPAT was that this national plan was selectively interpreted, misinterpreted, and contravened. All the checks and balances which were strenuously coupled together were left. To protect mental health users and ensure their safety and security, mental health provides for the formation of mental health review boards in each province. Unfortunately, in Gauteng, the UMPAT found that the mental health review board is moribund, it was not effective, had no authority. That's why the chairperson of that is also being charged. I appointed a team of 60 experts who, for 3 days last week, visited all the NDOs. 7 of them have been closed. 600 patients have been moved to government facilities. We are left with 700. And Chairperson, I want to emphasize that we have now opened an operation center, which by next week will work on the 24-hour basis. No stone will be unturned. There will have to be court cases in this case where the National Prosecuting Authority will decide who to prosecute and who not to prosecute. There will definitely be inquest for each and every death, which will be conducted by the magistrate. There is no way that anything will be swept under the carpet because it's not possible to do so. We are taking this opportunity to apologize deeply to the families affected. At every corner, we are working with them. We are not taking any decision alone. Thank you very much.
Honorable James.
Madam Speaker, let us take a moment to think about the many victims and their families who have suffered a terrible and unnecessary loss. Today we must confront this tragedy head-on, to face up to the suffering of the most marginalized and vulnerable members of our society. We must face up to the 102 South Africans and counting who are beyond hearing our apologies and hearing our lamentations of regret. We must do so because we cannot allow this to happen again. We must do this and demand justice. Speaker, the quality of minister may be measured by how he or she responds to a crisis. As soon as he learned about the many deaths, Minister Motsoaledi responded immediately, and he appointed the Health Ombudsman, Dr. Malagapuru Makgoba, to investigate and to report, which was released recently, and this report is a model of exactitude. But Speaker, it was too late, and as a result of which there are 102 preventable deaths of the most vulnerable citizens of our land. Dr. Makgoba rightly fingered Gauteng Health as primarily responsible for frontline management failure. But there is a deeper, chronic failure of surveillance, of communication, and of emergency response capability that afflicts the health system from the bottom right to the top of Minister Motsoaledi himself, which is why the DA called on President Jacob Zuma to appoint a judicial inquiry to get to the bottom of it. The question to the minister is this: why were you, one of the most powerful, influential, and alert individuals in our land, not aware of this unfolding tragedy when it happened? It took the DS Jack Bloom to extract the mortality figures from MEC Kodani Mashlangu as if they were state secrets. The Director General of Health, Precious Matsoso, knew there was a serious problem in January 2016, but after the court order in favor of Gauteng Health, she actually let the issue go, when she should not have. Why is it that DG Matsoso or you didn't make it your business to find out what was going on? Speaker, I would like to remind the House about the gravity of this tragedy. Listen to testimonies taken from the Ombuds report. Here's one. Some NGOs were like concentration camps, overcrowded with unkempt and hungry patients suffering from severe weight loss. There was no food to feed patients because Gauteng Health Department took 3 months to pay. At Mosego, people had no clothes. Patients were left dirty and poorly groomed. Corpses had unexplained bruises on their bodies. Some relatives did not know where their relatives were, and some do not know to this day. Post-mortems were not done. Where most deaths occurred, facilities lacked appropriate health professionals. Madam Speaker, what is to be done? The Ombudsperson made 24 recommendations, of which the Minister has completed a few, and as we heard today, he is busy with more in what is work in progress. But our efforts must radiate wider than the Ombuds recommendations, critical as they are. More must be done to ensure that the vulnerable are protected in our country. First, our country needs a responsible and alert health leadership across all spheres of society and of government, resting on what is known as a real-time disease surveillance system. As soon as there's a problem, and as soon as there is a death, it must show up in an objective national system of surveillance. This requires the rapid establishment, as the Minister knows, of the National Public Health Institute of South Africa, which has been delayed for much too long and is still being delayed. Second, legislation must be changed so that the Office of Health Standards Compliance may proactively inspect all health facilities as well as all para-health facilities provided for health service use. Third, Minister Motsoaledi complains about the lack of pioneers legislation, amending the Arcane Inquest Act of 1959, for example, but his own ministry is the laggard in pushing forward new amendments to legislation. Fourth, the position and responsibilities and lines of accountabilities of members of executive councils, the provincial MECs, should be made more strictly and clearly in terms of its subject matter. First, there must be explicit performance requirements. Two, there must be transparency of operation. You cannot have an MEC say, this is the number of deaths, only an operating like she's sitting in a dentistry where it takes the extraction of teeth to get at numbers. It cannot be so. It must be transparent. Together with reporting systems aligned performance requirements. Third, there has to be unconflicted compliance on MEC's part to the law. And fourth, there must be unconflicted accountability to the job at hand. Fifth, Health Director General Precious Matsoso recommended rightly that a Chief Medical Officer position be created in the National Department of Health. Sixth, the human resource qualifications architecture must be reviewed to ensure that health professionals and not amateurs run all of our health facilities. Seventh, Minister Motsoaledi must use the power he has of legally withholding conditional grants more effectively to exact compliance with provinces that honor our national health laws as long as they do not compromise access to health. Minister Motsoaledi pussyfoots too much around ANC intra-party sensitivities in the province. He must stop pussyfooting around that. Minister Motsoaledi's default reaction to provincial problems is to pull issues back into an overburdened National Health Department. You should remember that mental health was under the National Department until 1999 and was not a good story. Provinces absorbed the mentally infirm at the time of what's known as deinstitutionalization. How, may we ask, will the National Department run mental health services at a primary care level, at a community level, at a step-down level, and at hospital level? Remember, the human resource portfolio for health sits in the province, not in the National Department. The DA believes that mental health should be integrated with general health care and catered for all spheres of care. Speaker, I asked Minister Motsoaledi in committee when he first learned of unfolding Esidimeni tragedy, when others below him, as well as Section 27, already knew. He did not say. So I asked that question again. Tell me, when did you first learn about the unfolding tragedy? But I asked two more questions today. Tell me, why it was so late in the process, what is your diagnosis, and how would you suggest we, as well as you, live as a nation with this tragedy? For today, those who died bear on our conscience, and we stand before you, the dead, in your silence, with your families and relatives in shame. I thank you.
The Honorable Tembe Kwayo.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. The death of over 100 mental patients at the hands of the ANC government in Gauteng is the single most indicator post-1994 of the astoundingly shallow pit levels to which the former liberation movement has sunk. We can all stand here and speak from a detached position, play politics and try to escape responsibility. But the reality of the matter is that more than 100 South Africans who had the misfortune of being mentally diseased perished at the hands of a democratic state. More astoundingly, the ANC government, as was the case when it murdered workers in Marikana, refuses to take responsibility. It's not enough that Ketane Mahlangu resigned. It's also not enough, Speaker, that the ANC government comes here and offers a half-cooked apology. It is not enough that Mr. Zuma comes here and half-heartedly offers his condolences to the families of mental patients his government killed. We need a government that takes responsibility. What happened in Gauteng is demonstrative of the state of neglect of mental health generally in this country. Despite legislative frameworks available for the protection of mental health patients, the ANC has not prioritized their well-being in all respects. When the Mental Health Care Act of 2002 was implemented in 2004, it was hailed as one of the most progressive pieces of mental health legislation in the world. An entire chapter was dedicated to human rights for those with mental disabilities. Furthermore, the MHCA contained articles addressing compulsory admission, protection of patients' property, rights to appeal, the reporting of abuses, and the formation of independent review boards with ombudsman functions. It also highlighted several important principles, including the use of the minimum possible compulsion, the importance of not just treatment, but also rehabilitation and reintegration. So what we found in Gauteng is not just complete disregard for well-being of other human beings, which the ANC government has carefully built its reputation on recently, but the conduct borders on rabid illegality perpetrated with sheer impunity by people who think their hold on political power grants them license to maltreat South Africans. We have here a government that has no respect for its own laws, no respect for the people who put it on power, no respect for anything but their stomachs. Of course, Speaker, what is left unsaid here is that Ketane Mahlangu moved patients who had been at life is demand for almost all their lives to NGOs with close links to her ANC comrades. In their unbridled corruption, even the life of those who are abled differently is dispensable. We need to stop this road. We need to have all those responsible behind bars. We need, Speaker, to have those NGOs, the Gauteng department officials, and the politicians who instructed them to be arrested. It cannot be business as usual when more than 100 of our countrymen and women died from starvation, dehydration, and other preventable causes. And as EFF, we pass our heartfelt condolences to the families of the deceased and promise that we will leave no stone unturned until the murderers responsible for the death of your loved ones are brought to book. Madam Speaker, we also promise all those frustrated by government inaction in dealing comprehensively with mental health challenges that we will hold the Department of Health accountable for its inaction. I thank you.
The Honorable Msima.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. It speaks volumes about a government that through its reckless carelessness consigns its mentally ill to non-governmental organizations that were not properly vetted, accredited, or properly equipped and resourced to treat such patients. More than 100 souls unnecessarily lost their lives in this continuing tragedy. Such negligence and culpability is tantamount to murder. A government, through its delegation of responsibility to ill-suited and ill-equipped entities, is a party to this horrific crime. Officials at the Gauteng Health Department involved in the irregular issuing of licenses to such unvetted, ill-equipped, and under-resourced NGOs must be held criminally accountable. A full forensic audit must be conducted with twofold intent. Firstly, to identify and hold to account all individuals involved in allowing such a tragedy to occur, and secondly, to identify processes that must be put in place to ensure that such tragedy never occurs again. Minister, your ill-fated policy to deinstitutionalize when not having the requisite outsourcing checks and balances in place has now cost the lives of over 100 South Africans. How is it possible that patients were allowed to be transferred from licensed to illegitimate institutions? The Office of Health Standards Compliance is just as much to blame. Where were they? Why was there no vetting of these NGOs? Honorable Speaker, it is unconscionable that vulnerable citizens who have placed their faith and trust in government to look after their well-being, have had their trust betrayed in such demonic, reckless, careless, and negligent manner. Basic human rights have been trampled underfoot by the state and these NGOs. This will forever be a shame on this government. Let us ensure that such diabolical maltreatment never occurs again. The IFP sends its heartfelt condolences to the families and friends of those that lost their loved ones in this terrible tragedy. I thank you.
The Honorable Sheikh Imam.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, Honorable Deputy President, Honorable Ministers, and distinguished guests in the House. Let me start off on behalf of the National Freedom Party to extend our condolences to all those that have lost loved ones in this tragic incident. Honorable Speaker, when one looks into the investigation which was initiated by the Minister of Health, and he must be commended for doing that, one would identify and find a whole lot of reasons and challenges. But I want to reiterate what the National Freedom Party has said before. It is simply as a result of the ministers or national departments have very little say, or it's not within their mandate to either appoint MECs or HODs in the provinces that you find a situation like this. Now, I am not saying that as a result of that, that this is acceptable. But let me also go on to say, it's easy to sit here and blame each other. What has happened in the province of Gauteng is totally unacceptable. But let me add, what about all the oversight from the provincial members of the legislature of the health committees in Gauteng, together with the department officials? What have they done to ensure that this does not happen? Because we all have an equal responsibility. Now let me also tell you, we talk about going to court. Yes, this matter went to court. So why did we stop? Why? Because poor lives don't matter. Is that why we stopped? Why didn't we continue and fight the Department of Health in Gauteng and ensure that these patients are not transferred and never allow it to happen? We did not do that. But we're going to come here and we're going to grant and at the expense of those people's lives that we have lost. That is what is happening here. Now, Honorable Speaker, when you read the report of how these patients were transferred from one place to the other, it gives you an impression that they were sent to die, simply sent to die, because they were tied, like some of our apartheid people do, or the people tie them at the back of the buckies. These patients were tied, put at the back of those buckies, and transported to the NGOs which were not registered. Now, what the National Freedom Party is saying, all those that are responsible, members of the provincial legislature, part of the health committee in the province, the NGOs, those officials, the MC, must all be held accountable. And whoever is responsible must be charged criminally, and civil claims instituted against those to benefit those for next of kin of those people that have passed. Thank you very much.
Honorable Mache.
Honorable Speaker, honorable members, the strategic question that we need to ask is whether ours is indeed a caring government.
Point of order, Speaker.
Order. Order, honorable members. Where's the point of order? Order, honorable members.
Point of order, Madam Speaker.
What's the point of order, honorable member?
No, Madam Speaker, I just wanted to give cold water to the member because he is very hot about this matter.
That's not a point of order. Honorable Macheke, please proceed.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker and honorable members. The strategic question that we need to ask is whether ours is indeed a caring government, and to what extent are we building a truly caring society. I make this point because it is my view to the tragedy of Esidimeni are the values and ethics that defines our government and the society in general. I heard repeatedly by government statements and officials that we have a caring and a proper government. My question is, what does that mean? And what makes a government a caring one? I remember a biblical parable of a good Samaritan that illustrated who is your neighbor. Let us take this example to examine this question. One father says to his children, I quote, I love you, I cherish you, and I care about you, I close quote. But every week he squanders his salary on gambling and extravagant life. So much so that there is not enough left for his children to have adequate food, proper shelter, or clothing. And another father says to his children, I quote, I love you, I cherish you, and I care about you, close quote. But this father is careful with his salary, making sure his children are provided for first before he spends anything on himself. If there is not enough to go around, he will do without in order that his family is provided for. Now, if we were to apply that to our government today, which father would our government be? in the context of the current debate. We are told that what drove the Gauteng government was the need to save at all costs, including the cost of losing precious lives. A government that really cares about its people is one that puts its people first, and one that is careful about the people's money it is managing on behalf of the people, not its leaders. Honorable Speaker, a successful government is one that establishes a pattern of behavior which enables it to deliver the care when it really matters. So the claims that you are a caring government are a clang of a hollow vessel, because unlike the Good Samaritan, you have failed to deliver sufficient care
Honorable Member,
when
Honorable
encountered
Mbata,
in Esidimeni.
can you
As I
please, excuse me, Honorable Matege, Honorable Mbata, please respect the House. Please proceed, ma'am.
As I close, Honorable Speaker, a caring government must value high fairness and social justice for all. Indeed, the struggle for liberation will never be over until a caring society is built at the hem of which is a caring government. Thank you.
The Honorable Alberts.
Thank you, Speaker. Die enigste wyse om te reageer op die minister se verklaring om te vra hoeveel mense gaan nog sterf onder die heerskappy van die ANC? What happened to those poor mentally ill patients who truly represent the weakest of the weak under the watch of the ANC government is not only tragic, it is not only a gross violation of human dignity and the sanctity of life, it is not only in violation of the Constitution and every human rights treaty imaginable, it is not only against the laws of natural justice, it is not only an offense against God himself, but it shines a light deep into the dark, deep soul of the ANC and confronts us with a truth that few dare to speak before. And that is the ANC government and its deployed cadres are not merely negligent in their intent and actions, but that the ANC is intentionally indifferent to human suffering, while professing to be a beacon for humanity and civilization. This indifference is built on the quicksand of dishonesty and political expedience. You see, it works like this. While one would expect people and men like al-Bashir and Mugabe, when they get hold of you, to treat you indifferently, the ANC, on the other hand, creates an expectation of hope and humaneness. But instead, people get slaughtered. And when the going gets tough, the ANC, it very quickly descends into political expediency by playing the race card to deflect attention away from its own indifference. Its indifference is magnificently reflected in its denial of an opportunity by the members of this House to show its respect to the mentally ill patients that have passed away. Not only did they die on your watch, they are ignored even in death. Daar is talle voorbeelde van mense wat slagoffers is van die houding van die ANC. In Suid-Afrika gaan mense na staatshospitale toe om te sterf en nie om gesond word nie, omdat hulle blote nommers is en skape op pad na die slagpale. In Suid-Afrika kom boere van kerk af terug by die huis net om gemartel te word en vir skaap keel afgesny te word, want hulle het mos die grond gesteel. In Suid-Afrika word vroue verkragt, want hulle is blote objekte. In Suid-Afrika word kinders verniel, want hulle sal nie dieselfde regte hê as volwassenes nie. Hoekom moet hulle dit hê? In Suid-Afrika sterf soveel mense op ons paaie, omdat die owerhede meer belang in geld maak en geldinvordering as padveiligheid. In Suid-Afrika sterf heeltemal te veel mense. And those people die under the watch of the ANC while they are eating our taxes and while they are gorging themselves on tenders, while they profess human rights and use poetic words in their speeches, but act like leaders. How much more can we as a society tolerate until something breaks? How much?
Honorable Member, Honorable Albert, can you take your seat, please? Yes, Honorable Member, what's the point of order?
Honorable Speaker, I'm rising on rule number 85 to ask if it's parliamentary for the member to say that the ANC is actually slaughtering people like sheep. We take the matter as serious. We know that the big mistake has happened, but nobody slaughtered anybody unless he's got evidence to the effect.
The question of referring to a party is not usually seen as unparliamentary, but we will look at the context after studying the answer. Please proceed, Honorable Alberts.
I'm saying the ANC is indifferent to what is happening. Hierdie slagting moet stop, want die vraag is, wat gaan julle doen as die vernielde hond eendag omdraai en begin byt? Watter gevleelde woorde en rassekaart gaan julle dan red? Dink bietjie daaroor na. I thank you.
The Honorable Madisha.
Thank you very much. Coke says to the families and the relatives of the deceased, you deserve more than an apology. And not only an apology, but action. I say this because what happened contradicts Section 11 of our Constitution, which says that everyone has a right to life. We say to the nation, your government has failed you. The entire system failed you, be it the political executive of government that initiates actions and oversees its implementation, the administration that is tasked with the implementation of political decisions, and yes, us too, some here in Parliament, be it at national and or provincial level, who are tasked with exercising oversight over the executive and holding them to account. Even the Human Rights Commission is complicit. Its ability to preside over an investigation into this matter is questionable given the inaction of certain commissioners as the tragedy unfolded. Some of them remain commissioners in the newly constituted commission. A tragedy is defined as, quote unquote, an event causing great suffering, destruction, and distress, such as a serious accident, crime, or natural catastrophe. As the many was neither an accident nor a natural catastrophe, its genesis was criminal. There must be consequences. There must be criminal prosecutions. The Edmund tragedy points to the failure in the morality of those entrusted with our governance. And Honorable Groenewald, for example, pointed out, we know who is the needle of our moral compass. The word of Matthew Sposa, and I agree with him, I refuse, he says, as a disciplined cadre of this, he's referring to that former movement, he says, I refuse as a disciplined cadre of this movement to have my coffin buried in the same graveyard as leaders who have made the choice to place their own corrupt interests above that of those that we swore to serve. The party that we all revered, loved, served, and some died for, only exists in name. That party has failed and it must be removed.
The Honorable Dudley.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Death of more than 100 mentally ill patients in Gauteng province last year has deeply shocked the nation, and the ACDP joins people across the country in expressing sincere and heartfelt condolences to families and friends of the deceased. This exposure of the department's lack of monitoring, capacity and budget, societal neglect, and Parliament's inadequate oversight is devastating, and we stand collectively responsible even as we interrogate the situation to make sure nothing like this ever happens again. The decision to terminate a contract between the Department of Health and Life Esidimeni, a service provider that had been delivering healthcare services to indigent patients under contract to government for over 50 years, we are told, has had horrendous consequences and forced us to take stock once again. So many life and death decisions are taken at a policy, financial, and admin level without enough awareness and consideration for the sanctity of human life. Around 2,000 people who were receiving highly specialized chronic psychiatric care had to be moved to families, NGOs, and psychiatric hospitals, and the way in which they were hurriedly discharged en masse has resulted not only in the breach of their rights under the Constitution and the Mental Health Care Act, but a death sentence. The bottom line was money, of course, but lack of budget. But there was also a policy imperative to deinstitutionalize, two factors which placed Treasury and ANC's policy-making body in the mix of those responsible. This is a national tragedy. We are all implicated in some way. Yes, there must be political, civil, and criminal accountability and inquests into all deaths to establish the causes and appropriate steps that would follow. The removal of all surviving residents from unlicensed and incapable NGOs is non-negotiable and must take place immediately, but it must be safe, dignified facilities, and this will cost us. The ACDP calls on government urgently investigate how patients went from licensed institutions to unlicensed ones and to review and amend licensing policy and practices where necessary as they apply across the country. The ACDP also calls for a review of policy on institutions, on plans for mental health care services countrywide, and an increased focus on monitoring and compliance. This may have happened in one province, but our eyes must be on all. The ACDP has for the past few years been pleading with government to respond adequately to the plight of vulnerable people with regard to special housing needs. This includes mentally ill people, and we again call on government and Minister Sisulu to prioritize the approval and implementation of special needs housing program policy that has been waiting 15 years for approval before some other avoidable major disaster also ends in tragedy.
The Honorable Jafta.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. The life healthcare Esidimeni shenanigans have reminded us our painful history of neglect, maltreatment of the vulnerable, and human rights violation. To our credit, the Department of Health National is on course to salvage this crisis. The Portfolio Committee on Health received a well-established, detailed, and comprehensive report surrounding the death of mentally ill patients in Gauteng from the Health Ombuds and the Department of Health. It is clear from the findings of the Ombuds that the province was irresponsible in transferring mentally ill patients to unlicensed NGOs without consulting the National Department. Honorable Speaker, the powers given to the health MECs in provinces should be reviewed, especially Section 43, subsection 1 and 2 of the Mental Health Act of 2002, which empowers the head of provincial health departments and the relevant review board in the department to order state patients to be transferred to another designated health establishment, despite any determination by the head of the national government. Section 25, subsection 1 of the National Health Act 2003 should also be reviewed to confer the Minister of Health
provincial health jurisdiction. We therefore support the department's plan of action to implement the 18 recommendations issued by the health ombuds, and that corrective measures be undertaken to bring to task the identified health officials in the province. Honorable Speaker, the AIC conveys its heartfelt condolences to the families of the deceased and their immediate relatives. This tragedy should have been avoided. I thank you.
The Honorable Prowama.
Honorable Speaker, honorable members, Sidimeni is a first ANC Nazi camp. The Premier David Makura have the grave of this. The Premier David Makura have the grave of these South Africans died while they were still alive. Honorable members, we are all humiliated by this act of barbarism. It was a policy of extermination against mental ill patients. This is a gross betrayal. What is painful is when the Premier declared that he knew nothing. This Premier must be suffering from amnesia and ignorance. Gauteng province is not in safe hands. Such incompetence and poverty of leadership. It was embarrassing and shameful when the Premier wore a sack of cloth and flagellated himself like Pharisees. Honorable members, this was indeed a Nazi-like camp, characterized by sorrowful circumstances. Even Adolf Hitler would have given Premier a pat at the back. Our glorious page of people with Ubuntu will forever remain tainted. On behalf of Arang SA and myself, we mourn with the families who lost their loved ones. As the former MEC of Health in the province of Gauteng, may you search your soul and clean your conscience. You and the Premier are guilty of this madness. Honorable members, our people are no longer safe under this government. Their ruthlessness, lack of decency and humanness make a mockery of our hardly fought human rights. It is suicidal to think that the ANC will redeem itself. We should not wait until our country is reduced to a rotten carcass. Honorable Minister of Health, we sympathize with you. We can see you are running like a headless chicken. That provincial department is in an advanced age of decay. Your conscience is heavy on you. It doesn't help to apologize on behalf of people who their hearts are dark as hell. Arang SA supports your endeavor and wish you the best in this difficult task.
Thank you. Honorable Mbinda.
Yeah, Chairperson of the session, Manbulel. As the PAC once again, we forward our heartfelt condolences to the bereaved families of the deceased, and we say the passing of your loved ones came to us and the entire nation as a shock. This is a shock that leaves many questions unanswered. May God be with you in these trying times to help you heal. Inkosi ke inamandla. Once again, the ANC government is exposed as to how low they think of our people and their well-being. Honorable Motsoaledi, we will not go quiet, when you want to use this house to advance your own internal organizational battles by trying to clean your name and better position yourself from what one scholar named it as a dog-eats-dog syndrome in the ruling party. We know very well that you are one of those who are not in good terms. This parliament should not be turned into a tool for people to come and campaign for their internal party leadership differences. No amount of fancy words can reverse the damage you and your government has done to the affected families. Chairperson, I kept asking my fellow comrades, what is the recorded cause of death of these patients? Because all we are getting is that they were admitted as patients due to them being mentally ill.
which to my understanding, that is not what caused their passing away. I hope that the recommendations from the Ombudsman will be immediately implemented. There are pressing issues, Honorable Chair, in Tshwane. Once again, our people are up in arms against their fellow African brothers and sisters from across Africa. As the PAC, we condemn these violent attacks that are Afrophobic in nature. The ANC government must be held accountable as the real frustration of our people, that their levels of poverty are still in place. While white foreign nationals whom are in charge of our economy are staying in luxury peace, while our people are deliberately made to fight against themselves. We call upon all of them to refrain from this barbaric act that they are busy with. Thank you.
Thank you. Honorable Gori.
Honorable House Chair, comrades and honorable members. The APC joins this House and fellow South Africans in pledging our solidarity and heartfelt condolences to the families of the deceased in what is now the infamous Esidimeni debacle. Our sacred duty as society and government is to take care of the most vulnerable in society. And in the case of the Esidimeni victims, we dropped the ball with horrible consequences. The APC condemns in the strongest terms the health department in Gauteng for failing to do due diligence. People dying simply because of neglect clearly reflects that the said NGOs did not know what they were doing and they were in it for the money. This is criminal. But there is a fundamental ideological question here. Government must take charge and deliver social services. The capitalist idea of commodifying everything and its accompanying greed is the root cause of this tragedy. Shoddy governance is merely an enabler. The fundamental problem is privatization of social services. Currently, supported by the National Department, all provincial departments of health are using NGOs to hire home-based carers and HIV counselors. This leads to greed, the super exploitation of the workers, and government taking its responsibility. The APC condemns this practice. If there is anything to come out of this tragedy, it is for policies to change in favor of government directly providing critical social services. The APC wish to applaud Dr. Malegampuru Makgoba, the health ombudsperson, for the good work he has done. Esidimeni, the place of dignity. How ironic that the deceased suffered and died in indignity. Thank you.
Thank you. Honorable Mahlalela.
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson, Deputy President, Honorable Ministers, Deputy Ministers, Honorable Members. The ANC as a people's movement and a caring organization, we want to take this opportunity during this trying times and difficult period in the history of our country to extend our deepest sympathy and condolences to the families of the more than 100 most vulnerable people who died under the care of the Gauteng Department of Health. In doing so, we equally want to thank the Health Ombuds for his excellent work by producing this impeccable report with far-reaching recommendations. We believe that the full implementation of the recommendations was supported and directed by the President during the State of the Nation address, will go a long way in addressing the weaknesses in the mental health system of our country. As the ANC Honorable Chair, we are in full support of all the recommendations of the Health Ombuds, and we shall do all in our power to ensure its full implementation, both by Gauteng government and the National Department of Health. The Minister, together with his department and the Office of the Health Standard Compliance, have already appeared before the Portfolio Committee with a detailed implementation plan as well as progress made since the release of the report 22 days ago, of which the Minister has already shared with this House in his speech earlier on. We are therefore convinced that the report of the Ombuds is comprehensive enough, covers all aspects, and therefore don't see any necessity for the appointment of a Judicial Commission of Inquiry by the President to conduct further investigation. This view is first and foremost informed by our belief that the Health Ombuds is independent, impartial, and therefore convinced that he performed this work in good faith, without fear, favor, bias, or prejudice. Section 88A of the National Health Act, as amended, provides that anybody or any person aggrieved by any decision of the office or any findings and recommendation of the Ombud may lodge a written appeal with the Minister. The Minister must, upon receipt of such an appeal, appoint an independent tribunal, which must be chaired by a retired judge of High Court or a retired magistrate. It is therefore our view that anyone who is not satisfied with this report of the Ombuds into the circumstances surrounding the deaths of mentally ill patients should accordingly use this provision as provided by legislation instead of rushing to the President for a Judicial Commission of Inquiry. We are therefore calling upon all us as honorable members, as stated by the statement released by the family today, that we should not claim to do things in their interest without consulting them. And this is what they have said in the statement, and I quote, "We have already endured painful months of waiting and interviews during the Health Ombuds investigation. We urge political parties not to make us repeat that pain or make it in vain," close quote. As we do all of this, Honorable Chair, we should, as respected honorable members and responsible leaders, respect and honor the wishes of the families. During the healing ceremony which took place last week on Saturday, which was attended by both the Premier of Gauteng and the Minister of Health, these families made a special plea, which they've restated in their statement today, that as they mourn the tragic death of their loved ones, as politicians and political parties, we must at all times avoid using this tragedy as a political football. Let's give this family space and allow them to peacefully undergo the healing process. The ANC is as a disciplined force of the left, organized to conduct consistent strike in pursuit of a caring society. We commit ourselves to respect and honor the wishes of the families, but we shall, at the same time, continue to pay special focus to these most vulnerable people in our society, while ensuring that the recommendations made by the Ombuds are implemented so that the restorative justice is achieved, and by so doing, assist the families to find a sense of closure into the matter. We shall continue to ensure that critical elements of our value system, which is based on human solidarity and the spirit of Ubuntu, shall at all times include our pride in social activism and respect, as well as serve those most vulnerable people in our society with honesty and humility. As part of our agenda of social cohesion towards the construction of our national democratic society, we shall continue to ensure the protection and advancement of those who are most vulnerable in our society, especially the mentally ill patients. As we continue to advance this noble idea of a caring society, we are highly encouraged by the announcement made by the Minister of Finance yesterday during his budget speech that the NHI Fund will be established this year and will initially focus on, among others, the improvement of services for people with disability, elderly, and more importantly, mentally ill patients. As part of our support to the Health Ombuds recommendation, we will make special plea to the South African Police Service to fast-track their forensic investigation, which is currently underway, so that actions where deemed appropriate and justifiable can be taken as to ensure that those found to have grossly violated the rights of these most weakest members of our society are held accountable. We further appeal to the South African Human Rights Commission to ensure that it undertakes those systematic and systemic review of human rights compliance and possible violation nationally related to mental health as recommended by the Ombuds. As part of our pursuit for national democratic society, we shall ensure that the protection and continuous care of our people with mental illness, recognizing the rights of individual dignity and proper care, we need to decisively deal with all the current fault lines that still persist in our public health system, which threaten our social stability. Let me conclude, Honorable Chairperson, by saying, Honorable Minister, never and never again should such tragic incident ever happen where so many of our vulnerable people under the public health system die. Never again should cost consideration be used as a means to override the imperative of quality of care and therefore put our people's lives in danger, like the so-called Gauteng Mental Health Marathon Project has done. It is regrettable, Honorable Chair, that some political parties had decided to use this opportunity as a political grandstanding.
Honorable Mahlalela, please take your seat. What is the point of order on which rule, Honorable Member?
I want to ask the member of a question, actually, Honorable
Okay.
Chair, because
Honorable
I want to
Member, don't ask the question. Let me ask first.
Never again will
Honorable
people be killed under the ANC.
Honorable members, let us remind one another, when you want to ask a question, you should get permission. Continue on. Do you want to take a question? Honorable
Well, unfortunately, Chairperson, I don't take question to political parties who doesn't have direction.
Honorable Mahlalela, continue. He doesn't want to take the question. Thank you.
On a point of order, House Chair.
Honorable Mahlalela, take your seat. On which rule, Honorable Member, are you rising?
On a point of order, in the rule book that you have, you
Yes,
must read the
which rule?
You must know what is the rule book number.
No.
Permissible
The point
in
of
terms the
order
rules
I
of this
know
House.
is Rule 92.
one
I
that
just
says-
want to know on which rule or whatever principle you want to talk
The
on.
principle is that
Okay, thank
this
you.
member must not come here and mislead the House and speak about never
That's
that the
not-
ANC
okay,
is
that's
going
not
to
a-
kill people, because after
That's-
kill people in Marikana,
That's not a point
you
of
said the
order,
same thing
honorable
that
member.
want people-
Thank you very
you
much.
kill people in
That is
Gauteng
not a
now,
point
and
of
that is
order.
your
I'm going to
nature.
switch
The
off your
FF
mic.
is the only
I'm going to
political
switch
party
off
with
your mic. That's
direction.
not a point of order.
Must not be confusion
Continue,
here.
Honorable
Well.
Mahlalela.
I'm saying it's very unfortunate, Honorable Chair, that some Mickey Mouse political parties have decided to take this opportunity to use these tragic incidents for political grandstanding instead of addressing the issue that is currently prevailing the nation. We therefore call upon all of us as honorable members to truly respect the wish of the families. And I would like to appeal to all of you, just go and read the media statement that I've quoted substantively, that they have just released today. And we are saying there will be justice because the South African Police Service is currently undergoing forensic investigation. And once they've completed, everybody that will have been found to have violated the rights of those individuals must face the might of law and let justice be done. We can't be judges ourselves here. We don't have that responsibility. So let's be responsible and not behave like children. I thank you.
Thank you. I'll now invite the Minister to conclude the responses to the statement. Thank you. Honorable Motsoaledi.
Thank you, House Chair and honorable members. I want to take off where Honorable Mahlalela has left. Our apologies to the families is not informed by what us in this House as politicians think. It's not a public relations exercise. That's why we do it when we meet them, even in the absence of yourselves and the media. We've already met these families many times. We had a meeting with them on the 5th of February, and we apologized and we discussed the matters. And the statement they released today is because on the 5th of January when we met them, they said we must appeal to political parties and lawyers to start harassing them and to stop making their pain a political football. That's why there were calls of national days of prayer, national days of mourning. They stopped us. They said, please don't do it until we say so. They said, please concentrate on our pain because we are still in trouble. The moment you do all those things, you'll forget us and go and shine on the stage, in stadia and halls and churches. And they begged us that this must not happen. On Saturday last week when we met them, they asked so again. And because we don't seem to be stopping, that's why they issued a statement today, again saying, please stop this thing and concentrate on us. And even for the lawyers who keep on phoning them, when the Umbats has clearly outlined the legal processes in this document, they also said they must please stop. Honorable James, I agree with you that we need to hasten the establishment of the national system of surveillance. And I can assure you, on Tuesday this week, the NAPIS appeal that you are talking about, National Public Health Institute of South Africa, has gone through the Cabinet Committee. It's going to go to Cabinet next week. It will pass through this House. And that surveillance system will start having it in the country. The second thing I want to
to advise you about, Honorable James, is that whether we change the manner in which the national and provincial relate with each other and works is also one of the recommendations that we must review the Mental Health Act 2002 and the National Health Act 2003. I've already selected a review panel. The matter will come here. The parties will debate. It will be debated like any other act. But first of all, it's been reviewed. It's not just going to be changed unilaterally because the Umbad said so. That's why he didn't say the minister must change. He's ordering a review because during the course of the investigation, he has realized certain weaknesses in what is happening in the Act, both the Mental Health Act and the National Health Act. The EFF is claiming that we are not taking responsibility. We are definitely taking responsibility. Recommendation 17 is clear about how government must take responsibility, and we've already started. It says in recommendation 17 that the National Minister of Health must lead and facilitate a process jointly with the Premier of the province to conduct all affected individuals and families and enter into alternative dispute resolution process. This recommendation is based on the low trust, anger, frustration, loss of confidence in the current leadership of the Gauteng Department of Health by many stakeholders. The National Department of Health must respond humanly and in the best interest of the affected individuals, families, relatives, and the nation. The process must incorporate and respect the diverse cultures and tradition of those concerned. The response must include an unconditional apology to families, relatives of the deceased, and those patients who are still alive. So this apology is also inside this recommendation. It goes on to say, as a result of the emotional, it goes on to say the outcome of such a process should determine the way forward and such a mechanism to withdraw and compensate. It goes on to say a credible, prominent South African with an established track record should lead such a process. And this weekend, rather on Friday, the Premier has just informed me that we are meeting with the families, Section 27 and their representative, to decide on who is this credible South African, who will carry this mission and the process. I agree with EFF that there were too many illegalities. We've never hidden them. There are definitely illegalities in what has happened. And I've quoted some of them when I was talking. The manner in which the patient were moved, there were a lot of illegalities. The manner in which the Mental Health Review Board, which should have signed off whether patients moved or not, there are lots of illegalities. The manner in which the licenses were issued, there were lots of illegalities. The manner in which the NGOs took the patients, there were lots of illegalities. We accept that. And that's why the Umbad here spoke about them and what we indeed need to do. As for the NGO, whether they must go to jail or not, Chairperson, I've been in the health sphere for 34 years now. I haven't seen human beings acting this way. Even if they are NGOs, we can't accept the situation where an adult member of the public goes to a well-established institution with a license, valid or invalid, takes a human being which they don't even know, they've never even met, without records, without knowing the diagnosis, without knowing the treatment, take them and put them in your house and try to take care of them and end up not giving them food. You don't need to go to any medical school for that. It's common sense. Only a person with courage that is misplaced can do that. So there's no way the NGOs will be left. Any human being cannot be allowed to do that. The first thing is that you'll be scared. Who is this person in my house? What are they suffering from? Where are their relatives? What am I going to do with them in my house? Because mental health is a lifelong thing. It's not something that is going on. It's not like taking somebody who you found drowning and put them in your house to help them. You are going to live with them forever. So they are going to have to account. They can't be left. And that's why there are going to be an inquest. An inquest is headed by a magistrate Each and every death is going to be accounted for. How it occurred, who will have done what. The other thing is, even if a politician like myself or the MEC write a letter and say we are terminating this project, as they did, every patient who's admitted in an institution is controlled by a doctor. You can't leave an institution until the doctor discharges you. If there's an insistence from anybody that you be discharged, then you must sign an RHT form, refuse hospital treatment. So one of the things that we're investigating is whether indeed these patients were discharged or they were stolen, which is now a legal possibility in the manner in which they were taken. The issue of whether ANC is indifferent won't be judged in this House by politicians with agendas. The judgment of whether we're indifferent or we're killing will come from the families themselves as they meet with us. They are the only ones who can make that judgment call. I agree with Cove that they don't deserve only apology but action. And I've already shown you, action is in this document that there might be criminal prosecutions, but it's not you who decide who must be criminal prosecuted. It's the NPA, as you know. And it says here that all the investigation by forensic investigators and other law enforcement agencies must be given to NPA. It must decide who must be criminally liable and who must be charged. From the ACDP, the process of deinstitutionalization, which you thought is imperative, is clearly outlined by both the World Health Organization and the National Mental Health Policy Framework. A strategic plan is clearly outlined line by line when you deinstitutionalize. I can confirm to you as I'm standing here that what the officials in Gauteng Department of Health did was not the institutionalization. Even in the agreement document they signed, they never mentioned anything about what they eventually did. And that's why legal process must be undertaken to see what have happened. To the PAC, that there are many questions that are not answered. No question will go unanswered. That's why there are going to be inquests. No question will be unanswered because it's clearly written on what we need to do. Finally, when the Minister of Finance stood up yesterday and mentioned that a national health insurance fund will be implemented, he said something that is going to be a litmus test to this House. He said to establish these finances, we are going to review the tax credits. Tax credits that are going to the rich, which amount to 20 billion to do this fund. You are receiving those tax credits. If you put your money where your mouth is, you will support that we do away with the tax credits. For those people who are on medical aid, we take that money, we help our patients, including the mentally ill patients. Then I'll say you are talking. Not what you are doing here by shouting all that. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, honorable members. That concludes party responses to the statement. I'll ask the secretary to read the first order of the day.
Consideration of report of ad hoc joint committee on appointment of board members to Ministerial Youth Development Agency.
Thank you. Honorable Lesuma will introduce the report.
Masibonge mhlali ngaphambili wehloniphekileyo. Bongqongqoshe masekela bongqongqoshe malunga hloniphekileyo kulendlu namalunga omzansi mzuwonke ophelele sifisa ukunibingelela. Siza kuthula lo mbiko wekomiti lesikhashana ad hoc committee, joint ad hoc committee of the NYDA appointment of the board. Umbiko wethu uzoba ngalolu hlobo. Sizabeka inhloso ngqangi yalo mzimba, izindlela esizihambileyo, izincomo namazwi okuvala. Our democratic government established the NYDA.
Point of order, I'll check and get clarity quickly.
What's the point of order, honorable member?
What are the time allocations for this process? How long is it going to speak? And how long are other members going to speak there? Because there's no speakers list that's provided for here. Can we get a return on that, please?
I'll answer. Thank you very much. The member who is introducing the report is given the 10 minutes, and the parties are allowed to make declarations. Thank you. Continue.
Masibonge mhlali wangaphambili olendlu ehloniphekileyo.
House Chairperson.
Our democratic government
On a point of order,
established
House President.
national.
Honorable Lesuma, please take your seat. Yes, honorable member.
Which rules gives you that what you've just seen?
I
Which
can't.
rule in the rule book? Which
No, we
rule?
always have reports. That's how it works. You make
Everything else that happens here operates according to standard time.
No,
allocation.
okay, thank you. Let me respond to you.
You are going to give us the rule that.
Let me respond to you. Take your seat. Let me respond to you. Honorable Shibambu, we always have reports in the House. And all the time we have reports, the person who introduces the report is given the 10 minutes. And then we have declarations proportionally so. And if you want to make a declaration, you know your minutes according to the rules. Those are in the rules. Those ones of I'm assisted here, it says it's 1663. Check that one. But we have it here, we have the guide here. It tells us which party has to speak for how many minutes. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honorable House Chair. Our democratic government established the NYDA governed by the Act 54 of 2008. Inhloso yakhona ukulekelela nokusiza abasha bethu balelizwe eqinisekeni ukuthi bayalekelela ekukhuliseni nasekuthuthukiseni amasiko amathalente abo nokuba self-financial sustainable and with appropriate qualification to support and contribute to the economy of our country, as recently last week articulated by Honorable His Excellency the President and by the Honorable in his son and Honorable Minister in his budget speech yesterday. Our democratic government, the NYDA governed by the Act 56, it tries also to ensure that it does deliver on its predetermined objectives, which is outlined in the NYDA Act and its policy. Notwithstanding limited resources, it has been able to deliver, but also with the limited resources to reach out in the rural areas in particular. The Act stipulates that the board consists of 7 members, 2 of whom are the executive directors and would hold office for 3 years in line with the Joint Rules 142. An ad hoc committee was appointed by the joint houses to appoint and guide the processes of the board members. The committee went through a vigorous process to interpret the legislation framework which is articulated in the Act to ensure that all its deliberations are in line with parliamentary requirements. In all its deliberations, the Parliamentary Legal Services was actively providing legal guidance. The committee received 487 applications, which we agreed and with a developed agreed criteria to screen and shortlist the candidates with capabilities and experience. Having deliberated on the number of candidates to be shortlisted, the committee resolved to shortlist 14 candidates. All members of political parties present, I must repeat this one, honorable members, all political parties members present during the shortlisting meeting nominated their preferred the agreed criteria candidates to be interviewed. Curriculum vitae of all shortlisted candidates were published in the parliamentary website for transparency purposes. In line with Section 10 of NYDA Act, of fit and proper, all candidates were subjected to security vetting, and the outcome report was presented before the joint ad hoc committee by the legal services, parliamentary legal services, which was also requested to provide legal opinion on interpretation of Section 10 of the NYDA Act. Based on this, all shortlisted candidates were eligible to be interviewed.
Honorable Lisoma, thank you. On what point of order are you raising, Honorable Member?
The member who is speaking there says that parliamentary legal services provided vetting the members. But the
Honorable
letter
Member, I
was
think
there
that is a
were
matter.
written states
Honorable
security
Member,
agents.
that's not a point of order.
But if you deliberately mislead the
Honorable
House,
Member,
we will
that's
sit
a
now.
political point and that is a point
not a
of
political
debate.
point. If a person
Please
says
take
the
your
parliamentary
seat or
legal
I'm going to
service
switch
was
off your
involved
mic.
when the
That's
state
not a
security
point of order. Continue, Honorable Lisoma. That's not a point of order, Honorable Member. Continue.
Ngaphambi njengoba ngike ngasho eceleni ukuthi umbiko wekomiti elibekiwe elididiyele iNational Assembly neNCOP izinhlangano amlunga ezinhlangano zazikhona ezazingekho angikwazi ukuzikhulumela ngicela ukuqhubeka. Based on this, all shortlisted candidates were eligible to be interviewed and be recommended to the NYDA board based on performance during the interviews. On the 25th January 2017, the committee interviewed 13 candidates. One withdrew at the last minute. The committee resolved to recommend the following candidates, which I present before on behalf of the ad hoc committee for the House for recommendation to be adopted by the House and be recommended to the Honorable President. The following names: Mr. Dumiso Tokozani Mukako from Malanga, Mr. Isaseng Kenneth Morolong, Northwest Province, Mr. Yashan Piling from KwaZulu-Natal / Gauteng, Mr. Sfiso John Mutsweni, Western Cape Province, Ms. Zandile Majosi, Gauteng Province, Ms. Bavelile Gloria Hlongwa, KwaZulu-Natal, Ms. Mukhomuso Joy Maimela, Limpopo Province. I must say this on this part that why I'm reading also the provinces that we've got 7 board members and we've got 9 provinces. The committee did also deal with the geographical spread. Honorable Chairperson, the committee recommends that the Department of Planning and further recommends that the Department of Planning and Monitoring and Evaluation should, after consultation with the youth structures in the country, together with the NYDA, swiftly propose amendments to the NYDA Act. The process of amending the NYDA Act should consider changing the Act to be Section 76 rather than Section 75 bill. The committee further recommends Honorable House Chair and Honorable members to this Parliament that through its joint committee on ethics and members' interest to investigate Honorable Kasim regarding his conduct during the meeting of 24th January 2017 of posting tweet on his Twitter account while the committee was in session, where he attacked the core chairperson. Honorable Chairperson, I request on behalf of the joint ad hoc committee that the House approves and recommend to the Honorable President to approve the recommended names as stipulated. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I see there as a proposal for declarations, the DA. Before you speak, I may just want to remind parties of the time. The ANC has 7, the DA has 5, the EFF has 4, all other parties have 3. Thank you. Continue, Honorable Member.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. I just want to say that we will never be apologetic for speaking to the public. I know the ANC is not a very transparent party, and yes, and thus they will report members of the Ethics Committee reporting back to the public. The NYDA remains exactly what it has been created to be: an employment agency for the elite within the ANC Youth League and its alliance partners. This is precisely why more than half of its budget is used not for the development of the lost generation, but on administration and employment costs. The ANC loves bloated bureaucracy like the NYDA. They love them because it gives them additional vehicles to do what this new ANC holds as its ultimate mandate, which is to distribute patronage. To do that, you must make sure that your cadres are deployed to be the arbiters of the patronage. It's why there are such fierce battles between ANC factions to get their grubby paws on these positions. It's not to rescue the lost generation or to care about the future of our youth. It is for the express purpose of buying allegiance with patronage for the next elective conference. Cry the beloved country, grieve the lost generation. And perfectly according to script, it is exactly what has happened with this appointment process. The time and money of Parliament was wasted as the factional battles played out. The first ad hoc committee, the one before this, rightly included the requirement of a post-secondary qualification as a criteria in order to be shortlisted. But they did this not because they believe, as we believe, that those on a board managing a budget of close to R500 million should be skilled to do so, but rather with the express purpose to exclude a certain Kenny Morolong, who doesn't have a tertiary qualification. Now, why would they be so desperate to exclude poor old Kenny? They were afraid that Mr. Zuma would appoint Kenny as the board's chair rather than Yarshin Pillay, who is the Young Communist League's chairperson and Minister Lady Nzimanda's chosen son. And they were afraid that Mr. Zuma would do this due to his lost fondness for the Communist League. And this then had to be corrected. And so the process, which was flawed to begin with, was restarted, now without the criteria of a tertiary education so that we can include Kenny Morolong. And so the process was geared to the new mandate of who must be on the board. Never mind the 487 applicants, many of whom are young and incredibly talented and qualified South Africans who they did not even give a second look at. But rather, each member of the committee was told that they must just shortlist and pick one applicant. So basically you sit there and you say, who do you want, who do you want, who do you want? And each politician picks their politically connected applicant. It is no wonder that the only two shortlisted candidates without a political membership card were those nominated by the Democratic Alliance. Essentially what they have told the lost generation through this process is that just like you need to know an ANC ward councillor to get an EPWP job or to be moved up a housing list, to get ahead, you must have a political sponsor here in Parliament rather than a qualification. Today we are asked to consider these deployed cadres, all of whom hold senior political office and two of whom have no tertiary qualification. In fact, the most qualified shortlisted candidate, Siaduma Beniza, with 2 bachelor's degrees, an honors degree, and a master's degree, was excluded because, according to Honorable Mpongi, he doesn't go to rallies. Of the seven politically sponsored candidates recommended today, 4 are ANC Youth League NEC members, 1 a former ANC Youth League regional leader, and 1 the chairperson of the Young Communist League. These recommendations are a slap in the face to the lost generation of South Africa. It is an insult to the millions of unemployed and hopeless young South Africans. The DA believes that in a fair society...
Chairperson, order. Chairperson, is it parliamentary for Honorable Kasim to call the youth of this country lost generation?
Let's take
I think you must rule on that one. Thank you.
Let's take that as a point of debate. Continue, Mr. Kasim.
The DA believes in a fair society, where our youth must be skilled, empowered, and employed based on their talent and hard work, not on who they know and what circumstances they are born into. The DA will never support this report and calls on other parties to do the right thing and reject the blatant cadre deployment. Thank you very much.
Thank you. EFF.
Thank you very much, House Chair. No, look, the EFF withdrew from the process of appointment because we did not want to legitimate a patently illegal process which the ad hoc committee was engaging in. The member who spoke now illustrates a simple fact that out of the 7, 6 are affiliated to the Congress movement youth formations, including the Toy Youth League, which has happened since the dissolution of the Real Youth League, which we served then. What is the context of this thing? Like, we wanted to question the ad hoc committee that don't make the mistake that we made ourselves as the leadership of the Youth League that time. The 22nd National Congress of the ANC Youth League in Nazareth, which elected Honorable Mbalula, took a resolution on the formation of the National Youth Development Agency. And then in 2006, we called the National Youth Convention. The YSL resolved in its conference to endorse the process of formation of the NYDA. And then our leadership of the Youth League started the process legislatively in terms of conceptual foundation of how the National Youth Development Agency should look like. We said that time that we must collapse the Umsombomvu Youth Fund, and the National Youth Commission, and all provincial youth commissions to constitute a structurally independent entity called the National Youth Development Agency that is going to cover the length and breadth of South Africa, which is going to be organic, that is going to be efficient and effective, that is going to be responsive, that is going to have the flexibility to deal with all of those issues. And I want to say that key amongst the programs that the National Youth Development Agency must look into should be National Youth Service and Coercion, economic participation, youth advisory and information centers, and a National Youth Fund. We're talking today that the NYDA, which we had conceptualized, did not happen. It was stillborn because it was not given the necessary support. Actually, the functions that happened in the PYCs, the NYC and Umsovovu have been reduced. They've been reduced in terms of their impact as well, in terms of the extent of work that they could do. Because there is no proper focus on the NYDA. We made the first mistake of deploying Andre Lungis as the first chair with no clarity of what should happen, including in the administration who did the same thing of deploying politically connected individuals. And when we notice that this same process we're engaging in now is repeating the same mistake, we caution these comrades that don't do that, Mkongi, don't do that, Philly. It's going to lead to disaster. The NYDA will not be saved from the mediocrity that it currently is. It doesn't provide any hope for the future. Out of the 487 nominations Parliament received, there were very capable chartered accountants there. There were very capable advocates and lawyers there. But because they are not belonging to any of the sitting structures of the Youth League or the Young Communist League, they were not shortlisted. Young, capable people who have gained practical governance experience, would have given some life and credibility to the NYDA, were excluded in the face of partisanship, of wanting to associate with the parties that we belong to. Outside of all these things of narrow partisanship, we must care about the interest of young people. They must ultimately, Mr. Mnamela, be a National Youth Fund, an agency that is fully functional, an agency which all of us in the youth movement, when it still used to exist, had envisaged, had said must be the instrument that must drive about impactful youth development, not the games that are playing now in terms of all these issues. The EFF will vote against the names proposed because we do not want to legitimate a partisan narrow process that has been brought forward here by the ad hoc committee of the ANC. Thank you very much.
AFP.
Ngiyathokoza ukuqosha ithuba sihlalo. Honorable Chair, you know, one of the biggest challenges confronting young people is that their only hope in terms of representation in the developmental agenda is the NYDA. And therefore, for so long as it exists, it needs the support of all of us to ensure that it delivers on its mandate. And it has been pointed out that it came from the ashes, and now they received a clean audit, well, at least the outgone board. One of the things is to say at least the finances have been sorted out. But we have persistently raised the matter of a national footprint for the NYDA and for it to be able to be
readily available, particularly in your rural areas, your townships, semi-urban areas where the most vulnerable of our youth are found. And moving forward, that needs to be the chief priority in which the NYDA operates. But let's go to the interviews, because from this podium, we warned against a situation whereby we set the process up for failure if we conduct it in a manner which does not inspire confidence. And the committee had to redo its job, and the ad hoc committee was reconstituted. And Honorable Chair, whilst they don't doubt the capacity of those that have been nominated, the 7 that has been nominated, but we feel it was an injustice because in the interview process, one candidate, Andile Biela, who performed very well, much to the agreement of everybody in the committee, but because he shared a different view on the interpretation of the NDP, which was in fact one of the pettiest issues I've ever come across, they said, no, it doesn't qualify. Now that is when we begin setting up ourselves for failure. There's agreement that he did well, he's well versed on the issues, but simply because you don't want to be challenged in terms of the issues, then you choose to be petty about it. The other one is one that has been cited by Honorable Kasim, Mr. Benez. There as well, a qualified person who did well in the interviews, and then you close the door on those people. So, Honorable Chair, I think those are the lessons which we need to draw, that let us conduct these interviews in a manner that is fair and in a manner which if people do well, they get appointed. To not do that on its own is an indictment on our own credibility and an indictment on the processes which Parliament is engaged in. And this causes all of us to enter into a moment of reflection moving forward about how we conduct these things. Thank you.
NFP.
Thank you, Chair, honorable members. 40 years ago, our youth rallied and high school learners from all over Soweto decided to march against Africans as a medium of instruction. However, our youth in South Africa are faced with a multitude of vastly different social, political, and economic challenges today. Among the challenges, the two most important issues that have to be addressed in our view is the twin social evils of unemployment and drug use. These two social ills are interrelated and have to be addressed simultaneously and in tandem for our youth to be given rightful chance. The unemployment rate of our youth currently stands at 54.2%, which, if compared with the national rate of 25.6%, clearly shows that unemployment is disproportionately prevalent among the youth. Any society that condones such blunt exclusion of its youth from mainstream economy is bound to hit for civil strife and social upheavals. Chairperson, this trend is not only unacceptable, it is dangerous. South Africa is sitting on a ticking time bomb of social discontent, and drastic intervention is required if we are to have a chance of building a strong nation. The NYDA has a very important function to ensure that government, the private sector, and civil society all contribute towards identifying and addressing youth development challenges. In the past, the NYDA has been beset with problems which prevented it from executing its core mandate. But we have seen an improvement of late. The new board members will have to continue with this upward trend in performance. Make sure they continue to attain clean audit. Most important, however, the new board members should give firm direction and tackle the twin evils of youth unemployment and drug abuse with determination, and ensure that they are more visible in our townships and rural areas where they can and must make a huge contribution. Thank you.
Stogoze, AIC.
Thank you, Chair. Let me say it from the start that the AIC cannot support the names of the 7 candidates recommended to the board of the National Youth Development Agency. That is because the high risk associated with biasness, inequality, and unfair treatment of candidates exists in the whole process of recruitment and selection. The 7 recommended candidates were not selected from the best suitable applicants, but from those who were so lucky enough to be nominated for interviews. I'm saying that, Honorable Chair, because after attracting a pool of more than 480 applicants, the ad hoc committee failed to come up with a clear criteria for shortlisting. Remember, shortlisting is to exclude as many unsuitable candidates as possible and move forward those considered to be suitable, not to nominate those you want. We feel as the AIC, all the candidates should have been given equal opportunity. Therefore, the ad hoc committee should have screened and scrutinized each and every application and CVs as collective and find the reasons to eliminate or move forward each candidate. As the situation stands, not one reason can be given by this committee for all those candidates who were not shortlisted for the interviews. The reason being that members were given CVs to peruse as individuals and then come to the meeting to nominate and motivate the names they want. The committee should have found a criteria to select the best candidate to be interviewed, while on the one hand, eliminating those found unsuitable. It normally takes a small institution, Honorable Chair, the whole day to shortlist and come up with the best candidates to be interviewed from a pool of at least 40 applicants. In our case, at this level, it took hardly 2 hours to get 14 candidates out of more than 480 applications. One can see what was really happening. The AIC, therefore, Honorable Chair, has no reason to support all the recommended 7 names. I thank you.
Thank you. Any other part of the ANC?
Thank you very much, Honorable Chairperson. Chairperson, I believe that even if you are a politician, sometimes morals and honesty are very important in politics. I'm raising this because all these parties that are speaking here were part and parcel of the ad hoc committee to nominate the appointment of the NYDA. For an example, when Floyd Shivambo could see...
Honorable Member, can we all call everybody respectively in
I
the
said
House?
Honorable Floyd
No,
Shivambo.
no, you didn't. You said for Floyd.
Okay. Honorable Shivambo, when he could see that he could not succeed in that committee, because that is not the National Assembly, it's a committee of parliament, he made dogs of war there. And then what he decided to do was to run away.
On a point of order.
He marched out.
On a point of order.
Can you take your seat, Honorable Mkongi? What's the point of order, Honorable Member?
I know the sickness of
Honorable,
Mkongi, but you must
no.
not speak sickness.
Honorable
We can
Member,
talk about
please,
war. How
let's...
can I threaten war to a
Honorable
small
Member, that's
entity
not a point of order.
You must
Please,
not
that's a point
mislead
of
the
debate.
House.
I'm going to switch off your mic. It's not a point of order. Honorable members, I know that we were on a long leave, but let us all remember that when you have to state a point of order, you must state the rule or the principle. Continue, Honorable Mkongi.
Thank you, Chairperson. The fact is that Honorable Shivambo ran away. The issue here is that
on a point of order.
It's clear
Honorable
point of
Mkongi,
order.
please sit. Honorable Shibambu, what's your
Chairperson.
point of order?
Chairperson.
What's the point
In
of
terms
order?
of the processes of this parliament,
On-
when we realize as party that
Oh,
this is an illegal
Honorable,
process, it
no,
will work
that's
out.
not
That
a
is what
point
we
of
said
order.
there. So the alcohol
I'm
of
going to
Mkongi
switch
must not
off
make
your
him
mic
to come
again.
and lie here. Don't.
Let us separate a point of debate from a point of order, please. We ask you, we are asking, because not everything that is being said here is palatable to all of us. So let's just listen and follow the process. Continue, Honorable Member.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. The act of the NYDA is clear. It does not speak about qualifications. It does not speak about age. If you want to change it, come to Parliament and propose an amendment to that act. You can't smuggle your friends through a particular process. It is wrong and it is illegal. Honorable Chairperson, the man of Kasim talking about issues.
Honorable Member, please.
Honorable Kasim.
Yes, let's
Speaking
respect
about
one another,
patronage.
please. Please take your seat. Is that a point of order, Honorable Member?
It is a point of order.
What's the
House
point of order,
Chairperson.
Honorable Member?
As the member well knows, we do not refer to other honourable members by their surname.
I've already...
Thank you, dear.
Thank you. Continue, Honorable Member.
Honorable Kasim is a real product of political patronage and an ideological dwarfism. Because it is here, he is here in this parliament because of the patronage of the white supremacists. So he cannot come here and say our people and our young people are patronaged by the ANC. So he knows that thing well. The issue of transparency, the nomination of candidates was done by the people of South Africa. Members of parliament, they shortlisted, and then Committee of Parliament nominated. The ANC, therefore, supports this nomination and call on the president to appoint those people. Because these people, they have a history in the strike for youth development in this country. They have been in the battle trenches to make sure that there is youth police in this country. They were there when we drafted this police. You come here and lie. The idea of Youth Development Agency didn't come with you here. It was conceived.
On a point of order.
Honorable Mkongi, take your seat. Yes, Honorable Member.
We say we have noted these alcohol problems, but you can't say people are lying in their houses.
I can't hear.
He said people are lying. He said I'm lying.
Oh.
And it's not allowed.
It's
We know
not.
his alcohol addiction, but he must.
Oh, no, I heard your
elaborate
point.
it
Please.
here.
Okay.
We know that
Now
because
that
we
is
have
a
to finance
debate.
every day for your
Thank you.
alcohol
Let me
problem.
rule on the
We
matter,
come and talk
Honorable
about it
Member.
here because
Let
we'll
me
reveal
rule on the
your
matter. I'm going to
secrets
switch
of
off
going
your
around
mic.
brewing.
Honorable Mkongi, it is unparliamentary to say members of the House, any member of this House is lying. Could you please withdraw that?
I withdraw it.
Thank you.
Chairperson.
Thank you.
They must never come here again and say other people are lying. Because they do not have skills of
Honorable Mkongi, please take your seat. Yes, what's the point of order, Honorable Member? What's your point of order, Honorable?
Thank you. The
Not
sound
on,
system.
it's on.
It wasn't on House.
Oh, okay.
I can assure you.
I apologize
Thank you.
for that.
In deciding the matter, however, the appeal from the EFF, Honorable Shibambu, impugned the dignity of Honorable Mkongi by making all the inferences to alcohol and all those other things. Those are unparliamentary. He
Okay.
must withdraw. Thank you.
Unfortunately, there was a lot of noise. Can I look into the Hansard as to what you have just said? And then we'll come back to that. Thank you. Continue, Honorable Mkongi.
Thank you, Chairperson. By the way, personal attacks do not deter me. Do not demoralize me. By the way, the previous board cleansed up the mess done Honorable Shivamo and his friend when he was in the youth league. They chowed a lot of money of the NYDA, and they think that this NYDA is going to do the same mess they have done previously. So this is not what have happened before.
Honorable Mkongi, please take your seat.
On a point of order.
On a point of order, yes, Honorable Member, what's your point of...
The issue is that...
Honorable Member.
Despite... Yeah, I'm going to be brief.
I don't want any debate. Can you come with your point of order?
If you want to raise an issue against a member, and allegations like he's saying, I've never worked in the NYDA, but you only do that for a substantive motion.
Thank you.
So you must tell him to withdraw.
Thank you.
We know the problem.
Honorable Member, I think it is taken. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Continue, Honorable Mkongi.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. Therefore, the leadership that we have, Honorable Shivambu now for the NYDA, is a capable and leadership that have history in the battle for youth development in this country.
Order. Order, Speaker.
What's the point of order, Honorable Kaula, and under which rule?
Speaker, point of order on Rule 92.
Yes, Rule 92, but what's the point of order? Rule
The rules of this House provides that one must bring a substantive motion. In the absence of that, he must withdraw the statement, because he's saying that Honorable Shivambu child man from the NYDA. And Honorable Shivambu has just recorded that he has never worked for NYDA. Please rule, Honorable Speaker. It's misleading the House.
No, if he said that, I'm going to ask. Honorable Mkongi, can you stand? Did you say Honorable Shivambu child the money?
No, I did not say that. I said the allegations.
Honorable Member, please take your seat. I must finish my ruling. I will recognize when I'm done.
Okay.
Please take your seat. And then if you still feel that you want to raise a point of order, you can do that. Honorable Mukongi, since you say you've not said that, we have got recordings on Hansard. We will look into that also. Thank you. Honorable, there's honorable, unless he is giving it, the hand is still up. Oh.
I'll stay.
Honorable Member.
The minister who's talking, they are aware that if you
No, that's not a point of order, Honorable Member.
It's a chargeable offense. We're going to charge you.
No, that's not a point of order. Please sit down or I switch off your mic. Thank you.
I think my reference to alcohol is correct because it's...
Continue, Honorable Mkongi. That's not a point of order.
Thank you.
I think your point of order was taken on Makaula. Is that on a different matter? I think enye indaba le uzanga. Ngiyabonga mama asizwe ke.
Awuthabathule.
Mama.
Lalela ke. Uyabona lo honorable wakho hleli lapho.
Thank you ma.
Ukushile lokho kusho ukuthi amangavumelekile.
Thank you.
Akaxolise.
Thank you.
You must withdraw now, not tomorrow.
Thank you ma. I've already ruled on that matter. Please, thank you very much.
Now.
Take your seat. Take your seat. Continue, Honorable Mkongi, please. Let order, Honorable members.
Thank you, Honorable
Can we please use the appropriate language in the House? Continue, Honorable Mkongi.
Thank you. I'm aware that the EFF took a month to caucus me. You know how to deal with Bonga. That is why they behave like this. They took an entire month to plan about me. So, Chairperson, the issue that I want to raise
There's
is
an order on the floor. Can you please sit? Honorable Member, what's your point of order? Which rule?
Rule 92, Chair.
With members. Okay, today I'll leave it, but I'll tell you why.
At the EFF, we have a lot in our hands. We don't sit around and discuss non-entities.
Thank you.
He's a non-entity, nobody knows.
Thank you. I think that's a political point that you are saying is not a point of order. Continue, Honorable Mkongi.
I like the concept of non-entity. The issue here is that the DA
Order,
is
honorable
crying foul
members.
here today.
Order,
They
order,
said-
order, Honorable
Sihlalo.
Mkongi, order, sit down, please. I'm talking now, please. Honorable members, there will be things that are said that I can't hear, and I don't like this always postponing the rulings because I couldn't hear. Please allow the speakers to speak. Continue. Honorable Sit, Honorable Mkongi, Honorable Mam Kaula. What's your point of order, ma?
Ngiyabonga Sihlalo. Bengithi mina ake lo mntwana ongaphambili. Honorable ke lo phambili. Akacabanga ukuthi njoba kula abantu bafuna ukuzwa ukuthi i-YDA ithini. Nothi lento yokuthi azogibela
Awuvala point of order. Mam Paula, ngiyabawa ukuthi asikhulumeni ilanguage evumelekile ngendlini. Njengoba uthi umntwana loyo lapha abazosukuma futhi bathi point of order. So ngikhalimela futhi mama. Asikhulumeni kahle sihloniphane endlini. Siyabawa. Ungaqhubeka baba.
Enkosi, Mama Khawula, umsebenzi wami endiwenzayo yaba ndiyachayela. Ndilelo ndenzayo ngoku. The DA is crying foul. They said our youth is a lost generation. They want to hang on the structure of the lost generation. Want to hang there. And your people who are lost, they have lost out now in the NYDA. You see? So we, in the African National Congress, we take this opportunity today to accept that the president must announce the appointment of this NYDA boy. Thank you very much.
Order, honorable members. Are there any objections to the recommendations? In light of the objections, I will now put the question. Those in favor will say aye. Those against will say no. I think the ayes have it.
Chairperson?
No. Simultaneously, okay, you
Thank you,
allow
Honorable
it.
Chairperson, I would like to call for a division.
A division having been called, the bells will be rung for 5 minutes. I have it. Order, honorable members. I just want to remind all members that they may only vote from the allocated seats. When requested to do so, members must simply indicate their vote by pressing the appropriate button below the yes, no, or abstain signs. If a member inadvertently presses the wrong button, the member may thereafter press the correct button. The last button pressed will be recorded as the member's vote when the voting session is closed by the chair. A question before the House is the approval of the recommendation for the appointment of Mr. Ndumiso Thokozani Mukako, Mr. Itiseng Kenneth Murolong, Mr. Yeshen Pillay, Mr. Sfiso John Mutsweni, Ms. Zandile Majozi, Ms. Bavelile Gloria Shongwa, Ms. Khumuzo Joy Maimela, to serve as board members of the National Youth Development Agency. Are all members in their allocated seats? Voting will now commence. Those in favor of the recommendation should press the yes button. Those against should press the no button. Those wishing to abstain should press the abstain button. Have all the members voted? I've been informed that sometimes this gadget don't flash. Even if they don't do that, you must just press. That's my own pronunciation, don't change. I know what I'm saying. Anyway, the voting session is now closed. I'm awaiting the results. Yeah. Off. Thank you very much, Order, honorable members. After the votes, the results are as follows. Abstain, 10. The noes, 9-2. The yeas, 174. The question is therefore agreed to. The decision of the House will be conveyed to the President. Yes, Madam.
We cannot vote wrong into a right.
What is that?
And therefore, this is just reactionary. You have flashed our votes and it's all wrong.
Phonetics, my sister. Let's continue. Now, we're gonna take motions without notice. We come to the motion without notice. Does any member of the ANC wish to give a motion without notice?
Thank you, Chairperson. The ANC moves that
There's too much movement. Can you please sit? We allow those people who want to move. Please take your seat for a while. There's too much movement. Thank you. I'm just waiting for the people to move so that we are settled. Thank you. Continue, Honorable Member.
Thank you, Chairperson. The ANC moves without notice that the House notes with shock the unfortunate accident of two trains who collided at the Roslyn railway station north of Pretoria on Monday, the 20th of February this year. Further notes that more than 100 passengers were injured. Understand that the trains were believed to be traveling in opposite directions but were on the same track when the accident happened. Recognizes that disruptions of commuters daily traveling due to the train's suspension in the affected train route, believes that the provision of the reliable and safe public transport is a key requirement standard for public transport service providers, welcomes the proposed investigation to ascertain the cause of the accident and to improve the train service to a better standard, and wishes those passengers that are injured a speedy recovery. I thank you.
Thank you. GA.
Chairperson, I hereby move on behalf of the Democratic Alliance that this House, one note that during this year fire season in the Western Cape, residents were hard hit by runaway fire across the province. Two also notes that during the session alone, more than 17,000 fire have been recorded, 5,000 more than the last year. Three further notes that there have been reports of fires being deliberately hit intentionally by people. Four acknowledges that the authority are investigating these cases, and also anyone who finds guilty of crimes must face full might of the law. Also acknowledge that on the bright side, 97% of fires in the province are brought under control within 1 hour of being reported. 6 also acknowledges that due to excellent work and rapid response of firefighters and volunteers of fire station and non-profit organization operate in the province. And lastly, 7, express our profound appreciation to working of fire, volunteers of wildfire services, and also firefighters of municipal fire brigades, and have been for their dedication and keep the residents and the properties of Western Cape safe. Thank you.
Thank you. I allowed him to finish because I think we should need to remind one another. 1 minute? Yes, thank you. EFF?
I rise on behalf of the economic freedom fighters to move without notice that the House notes that the province wide silent protests by unemployed graduates in the Eastern Cape, who after years of frustration due to unemployment, decided to go to the streets to show the whole world their frustration. Further notes that young people aged between 15 and 34 years are the most vulnerable in the labor market, with unemployment rate of 37.1%, which is 10.1 percentage points above the national average. Acknowledges that as a nation, we have not done as well as we should have to advance the interest of young people, to industrialize our economy, to ensure that no trained young person stays without a job. Further acknowledges that the struggle that thousands of unemployed graduates are going through, having to sell sheets on the streets while holding the higher qualifications such as master's degree, calls on the public and private sector to hold hands in attempts to root out unemployment in the country, promote industrialization, and to be constantly aware of the kind of learning that universities provide, to ensure that there is no gap between what industry wants and what university can offer. Send our deepest appreciation to the thousands of brave young people who took to the streets yesterday, assuring them that the struggle will not be in vain. I so move.
Thank you. The chairperson has also been reminded of the mistake that she made. We are on motions without notice, and the question must be put. And I apologize, and I just want us to go back to the motion of the ANC. Are there any objections? No objections. Agreed to. The EFF one? No object. Oh, the DA, I'm sorry. No objections. Oh. The DA?
House, no, the one that's just been read is not that one. Eh?
No, I'm still coming there. The EFF?
Yeah, we object, Chair.
Thank you. No, it's not me who must tell people to.
On a point of order, Chairperson.
Yes, honorable member.
It's just very sad that the ANC will object to a motion of graduates.
Honorable
looking for
member,
jobs.
that's not a
and
point
to be
of order.
ashamed
I
of
switch off your
yourself.
mic, please. Please, everybody can object. You have got a right to do that. We continue now. ANC.
Thank you, House Chair. The ANC moves without notice that the House notes with great shock the killing of 30 people as a result of a car bomb blast at a market in Mogadishu on Sunday, the 19th February 2017. Further notes that more than 50 people were injured and some critically. Thirdly, recognize that those injured were mostly traders and customers at the market. The dead people also include soldiers. Deplores the acts of terrorism and massacre of innocent and unarmed civilians for sectarian interests. Believes that the parties and organizations should rather use the space and opportunities to contest their views in a free and fair democratic elections. Conveys its condolences to the government of Somalia and Somalians at large. And lastly, wishes those people who are injured a speedy recovery. We so move, House Chair.
Thank you. Are there objections to the motion? No objections. Agreed to. IFP?
Ngiyathokoza sihlalo. On behalf of the Inkatha Freedom Party, I move without notice that the House extends its deepest condolences for the deaths of the 6 people who died at the military facility at the Durban Harbour. Further notes that 3 of the deceased are South African National Defence Force members who died in their attempt to rescue the other 3 deceased who were public works employees. Acknowledges with sadness that all 6 were overcome by gas fumes that are reported to have been as a result of a leak in the sewer pit where the 3 employees had been working. Further acknowledges that several other patients were also found at the scene with minor injuries, and they were treated on the scene for their injuries and later transported to various hospitals for further medical management, and we wish them a speedy recovery. Finally, calls for more effort to be put into the investigations to uncover the cause of the leak and for preventative measures to be put in place to prevent more such incidences from occurring in the future. So move. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there objections to the motion? No objections. Agreed to. NFP?
Thank you, House Chairperson. I move on behalf of the NFP that this House notes that the Crime Intelligence Unit in Bela has seized 8,000 sachets of Nyayope with an estimated value of 40,000 rand during a sting operation on Sunday, the 19th February 2017. Further notes that a 42-year-old man believed to be the main supplier of this Nyayope to the drug dealers in and around Pelapela and Polokwane areas was arrested and charged with possession of drugs. And finally notes that drug abuse is rising in South Africa and regional drug trafficking is on the increase, with the UN recognizing South Africa as a regional hub for drug trafficking and being the largest transit zone for illicit drugs in Southern Africa. Wherefore, we call upon this House to congratulate the SAPS and in particular the Crime Intelligence Unit in Bela Bela for their sterling performance in fighting against drug trafficking. Encourage all members of SAPS and other law enforcement agencies to intensify their efforts in fighting the scourge of drug trafficking. I so move.
Are there any objections? No objections. Agreed to ANC.
Thank you, Chairperson. The NC moves without notice that the House notes with enthusiasm the swearing in of the new Gambian President Adama Barrow in his home country at Independence Stadium in Macau, west of the capital Banjul, on Saturday, 18 February 2017. Further notes that his inauguration took place a month after he was sworn in across the border in neighboring country of Senegal during a tense power struggle. Reckons that the event was attended by several African heads of state as well as high-ranking diplomats, with the guest of honor being the Senegalese President Macky Sall. Recalls that February the 18th is also the anniversary of the Gambia's independence from Britain. Believes and hopes that the swearing in of President Adama Barrow will mark the rebirth of democracy, the rule of law, prosperity for the Gambian nation, and wishes the President Adam Barrow a success in his new office. I thank you.
Thank you. Are there objections to the motion? No objections. Agreed to UDM.
Thank you, House Chair. I move without notice on behalf of the United Democratic Movement that the House notes that on Tuesday, approximately 5 a.m., an elderly woman in her 60s died in a queue in the health train Pelopeppa. Further notes that at the time of her death, she was queuing with hundreds of other patients waiting to access basic health care. Note with concern that she's one of many people around the country of over the past few years died while waiting in long queues to access basic health care. Calls on the Department of Health to work hard to improve access to basic health care for the poor and vulnerable, conveys condolences to the family and friends of the affected people. I so move. Thank you.
Are there any objections? No objections. Agreed to FF plus. Nirni. GA? GA? Yes, madam.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I hereby move on behalf of the Democratic Alliance that this House notes that Miriam Makamu was named Businesswoman of the Year at the annual Clover Mama Africa Awards ceremony. Also notes that Mama Makamu opened a small bakery in Temisa in 2008, which today employs over 48 community members. Further notes that she was nominated for her ability to continuously find new ways to increase sales and has increased them by 63% in just 1 year. Acknowledges that Clover Mama Africa's initiative is Clover's flagship corporate social investment project. Also acknowledges that over the past 13 years, the project has appointed 43 mamas across South Africa, collectively caring for 15,500 children and 2,500 elderly. Congratulates Mama Kamu on being chosen as this year's Mama Africa Businesswoman of the Year and wishes her well in her future endeavors. Malibongwe!
Raleboga, ukhona ophikisana nale motion? Akekho sokoze. Agreed to. EFF?
Thank you, Chair. I rise on behalf of the economic freedom fighters to move without notice that the House notes the rising tensions between South Africans and other African nationals in Gauteng, precipitated by perceptions, real or imagined, of foreign national involvement in the spate of crime and drug use bedeviling our country. further notes that this is not the first time our country has been held ransom by these despicable acts of violence against our African brothers and sisters. Acknowledges that as a country we might have done enough and not have learned enough from previous experiences to ensure that we deal decisively with violence against our own kith and kin from the rest of the African continent. Further acknowledges that Africa is one, from Cape to Cairo, Morocco to Madagascar, and we should not, under any circumstances, seek to entrench in our minds and in our actions divisions brought by our colonial past, which are essentially inimical to our development as a continent. Encourages all political parties, government departments, municipalities, churches, and other civil society organizations to use proximity to people to educate them about the need for brotherly and sisterly love between ourselves and our African brothers and sisters. Further encourages all levels of government to think more clearly about how we can prevent this Afrophobic violence from flaring up again. I so move.
Thank you. Are there any objections? No objections, agreed to. Hope, abagona. ACDP, abeko. ANC,
Thank you, House Chair. The ANC moved without notice that the House notes with sadness the passing on of Mr. Al Jarreau, the legendary jazz and R&B singer, and 7 times Grammy Award winner on Sunday the 12th at the age of 76. Recalls that he embarked on a musical journey in the 1960s, releasing an album in 1965, receiving his major breakthrough in the music industry when he was signed by Warner Records and released an album, We Got By, in 1975, which brought him the national status attention. I believe that his music crossed barriers and was loved by a range of different audiences. Faith believes that his music will continue to inspire us for generations to come, and therefore conveys its condolences to his wife Susan, his family, and his legends of fans. I so move, House Chair.
thank you. Are there any objections? No.
Chair, we don't object to Imibang. Thanks.
I couldn't hear you, but anyway, whatever you said, it's fine. Thank you. AIC?
Thank you, Honorable Chair. I hereby move on behalf of AIC that this House notes that the South African Airways, which is a coma-induced state, has become a national liability. That its state-owned entity has become a shard of its former self and a burden to the state. The SA has been ordered by the South Gauteng High Court to pay Coma a whopping 554 million after he had been engaged in an uncompetitive contract for a period not less than 14 years. That the National Treasury bailout of 5 billion to say in previous year demonstrated to the extent to which this airline has tilted towards a debt spiral. That flogging a dead horse is an exercise in futility. That the government should have proper management and oversight over SA in order to produce maximum outputs and become efficient and productive. I so move. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any objections to the motion? No objections, agree.
House Chair, we invite your indulgence. ANC objects vehemently. Thank you.
Thank you. The motion, since there are objections, the motion will be converted to a notice of a motion. Thank you. Hang? Nirni? ASC?
Thank you, Chair. The ANC moves without notice that the House notes with sadness the passing away of 3 members of the SANDF and 3 public works employees after inhaling toxic gas fumes inside a sewer pit at a military facility in Durban Harbour on Friday, the 17th of February, 2017. further notes that more people were taken to hospital after inhaling the dangerous fumes, regrets the unfortunate accidents that has taken lives of our fellow South Africans, supports the purported investigations to determine how the 6 people died and where the dangerous gas came from, so as to avoid similar occurrence. Further conveys its condolences to the families of the deceased and wish those who are injured a speedy recovery. I thank you.
Thank you. Are there any objections?
Honorable Chair, no, I don't want to object to it, but I just want to check with you because that was the motion Honorable Hlengwa read. So we object to the laziness of the ANC for not doing their work because that
Thank you
motion
very much.
I've read already.
Thank you. So are you objecting to this?
We have already been read, hence in that we are objecting to it because it's already been read by Hlengwa.
Okay.
So they must get something else from
Let
the
me be
advice of
advised
the
on what happens. Let me be advised on what happens if a motion has been read. Woodvik? I'm informed that if the motion has been read before, then that is overriding this one. So, no problem. We continue. I'm not going to put a question. Honorable Paulse, what's your point? Why are you raising your hand?
It's not a question, Chairperson, but if they're not asleep on that
No,
side,
no,
then
no,
they
no,
would
no, no.
have
That's
seen
not
me
a
read
point of
already.
what I'm
But
switching
they're
off your
fast
mic.
asleep.
No, it's not a
sleeping
point
there.
of... No, sit down. I'm not putting the question. I continue. APC. Okay, not here. PAC. Ni, DA.
Thank you, Chair. I hereby move on behalf of the Democratic Alliance that this House note with concern that the South African Democratic Teachers Union in Mpumalanga has once again held learners to ransom when they lured teachers away from their classrooms during school time to participate in march. Also notes that as a result of SARTU's actions, learners in Kanyamazan lost valuable class time after some teachers failed to show up for class. Acknowledges that there is absolutely no justification to interrupt our children's education for matters that do not positively contribute to learning. Also acknowledges that SARTU's actions completely contradicts the notion that children should be in class on time every day, learning, and that teachers should be teaching. Further acknowledges that for as long as SARTU is allowed to maintain its grip on the department, Mpumalanga learners will continue to suffer. Condemns the actions of SARTU and further express our appreciation to those teachers from schools in Kanyamazan who were not intimidated and still showed up for work to teach. I so move.
Are there any objections to the motion?
The ANC vehemently objects this
Thank you.
unfounded.
Thank you. There are objections to the motion. The motion will be converted to a notice of a motion. ANC? They are done. Okay. Thank you. That concludes the motions without notice. Now we go to the member statements. The next item on the order paper is member statements. Does any member of the ANC wish to make a statement? Honorable Kaula, just relax, your time will come. It's guaranteed. ANC? Honorable member?
The ANC government has made significant strides in ensuring that the military veterans and their dependents receive quality education as a basic constitutional right. The provision of education to military veterans and their dependents continues as a major priority for the Department of Military Veterans. The department has supported approximately 5,800 beneficiaries to the amount of 142 million against the initial budget of 26.4 million in both basic tertiary education. Despite financial challenges, the significant achievements in the past 2 years has brought about empowerment and a positive change of life to military veterans. The department led by the Minister of Defense and Military Veterans, Ms. Nosiviwe Mapisa Ngagula, with Advisory Council of Military Veterans and the South African National Veterans Association, that is SAMVA, resolved to continue to provide military veterans and their dependents with support on both basic and tertiary institutions for the 2017 academic year, including access to private institutions.
Thank you.
Thank you.
A reminder again, 1.5 minutes for statements. Thank you. DA, Honorable Breitenbach.
Thank you, Chairperson. The judgment handed down yesterday in the North Gauteng High Court confirmed that the ANC-led government's withdrawal from the International Criminal Court was unconstitutional, irrational, and procedurally flawed. This is a victory for the rule of law and indeed for our country's human rights-based foreign policy that Mr. Zuma and his cronies have trampled on. The ANC-led government now has an opportunity to reconsider the wisdom of withdrawing from the ICC and urge them to do so. South Africa is currently out of step with other progressive and democratic African countries that have reaffirmed their commitment to the ICC. South Africa does not want to be lumped together with pariah states who have no respect for human rights and who do not subscribe to accountability for those guilty of the most heinous human rights violations. The judgment also confirms yet another breach of the Constitution, this time Section 231, and illustrates the ANC's willingness to steamroll over the founding principles of our country. The DA will be investigating avenues to hold those responsible for this breach to account. Thank you.
Thank you. EFF, Mam Kaula. Oh.
The economic freedom fighters is disgusted by the continuing degeneration of proper governance in the Eastern Cape, done with impunity by the ANC deployees in that province. The MEC for Cooperative Governance and Traditional Affairs, Fikile Xasa, has continuously overstepped his authority, encroaching on powers that should belong to the Premier by appointing his girlfriend Nophelo Khobochi, firstly as a Deputy Director General of the department, despite her having no experience and having spectacularly played her competency-based assessment. He then elevated her to the position of acting head of department after they forced the previous HOD out. Ms. Khobochi then went on to employ various acting senior managers and advertise about 200 positions without the knowledge of the provincial treasurer. The competency-based assessment specifically mentioned that she does not have the strategic capabilities required for the DDG, and her personality prevented her from working in the constructive manner with juniors. She is paranoid and thinks people are out to get her all the time. It is the duty of the Premier to hire and suspend HODs, and yet in this case, Mr. Xasa went ahead to hire Ms. Khobochi without Ms. Sule's knowledge. Despite this, Premier Msule has not taken any steps against Mr. Xasa. The Eastern Cape will continue being the skunk of this country until we remove the ANC and its corrupt leaders from power.
Thank you. Time up. ANC.
Thank you, House Chair. The ANC has committed itself to invest in the infrastructure that will unlock the mineral wealth of this country, creating jobs and support the local beneficiation of the mineral deposit in the benefit of South Africa. We therefore welcome the initiative that comes from ANC Gauteng government to launch 50 million road rehabilitation project between Mayor Tin Albert and Katlehong in Sidibeng. This old road provides the link between Meatin and Katlehong as an alternative to R59, which is extremely busy road. In this, that is why the provincial government has prioritized this in rehabilitating and is scheduled to finish this by August. The spinning off this project of this road under the construction of 2 rivers that crease across, that will help and stimulate the industrial development of the area at large, rural and agricultural in nature. The other important aspect of this project include the component of local subcontracting labor employment, in particular that will benefit women, youth, and the disabled. This project demonstrates that the ANC government in Gauteng is going to deliver this infrastructure that will assist in expanding the basic needs of the region, as well as making a rapid stride in eradicating poverty and jobless. Thank you, Chair. That's ANC Gauteng for you.
Thank you.
House Chairperson.
Honorable Steenhuisen.
House Chairperson, I'd like to address you in terms of Appendix A, subsection 6 of the rules, if I may. What the subsection essentially says...
Can you please repeat what you just said?
It's Appendix A to the rules, subsection 6.
Okay.
It says here that it is essentially the priority of members to attend plenary sittings and committee meetings. And I'm seeking guidance from you because I see that the Honourable Mr. Malefe has done a runner already. And is it appropriate on your first day in House to put in for a half day?
Honourable member, that's not a point
Honourable
of order.
House Chairperson.
I'm sorry, that's
Honourable
not a point
House
of order.
Chairperson.
Honourable Deputy Chief Whip.
I think the Honourable Steenhuisen is grandstanding. Honourable Molife is busy filling in forms here in Parliament.
Members, I hear you, but I have already ruled that it's not a point of order, please. Where am I? You are losing me. IFP, it's coming, ma'am. Ngiyokubiza ngegama manje, angisabizi iphathi ngoba akuthathela. Yeah. IFP.
Thank you, Honourable Chair. House Chair. The horror attack at Tula Rhino Orphanage in KwaZulu-Natal that took place earlier this week, in which a young woman was raped, caregivers savagely beaten, and 2 baby rhinos killed, must send a strong message to government that we are at war for our rhinos. Poachers are brutal and savage, they have no conscience, and will not stop until the last rhino in South Africa is dead. This brutish and callous attack at Tula Rhino Orphanage is evidence of a situation that's beyond out of control. When will government wake up? How many more rhinos must die? And how many more anti-poaching officers must be killed? And how many more caregivers sexually assaulted and beaten up? Our justice system is failing. Our courts are not prosecuting poaching cases quickly enough, as legal technicalities in the system are exploited by poachers' legal representatives. The IFP calls for the police to act swiftly in apprehending these miscreants and for them to face the full might of our law. Our thoughts and prayers are with the caregivers and rhinos of Tula. Thank you.
Thank you. UGM. Honourable Kaula.
Chair, I'm rising on Rule 92. Is it parliamentary for a new member who has just started for a day not to finish a day? Brian Mulefo is not here.
Honourable member,
today.
What is your problem?
Why is he not
Please
here?
sit. That's not a point of order. Hi, man. Sifuna ukuya ekhaya ngolosine. How? Lisimoshela isikhathi. Qhubeka baba ufiltani.
Thank you. Honourable Speaker and members, in its forward to the National Department of Health Annual Performance Plan 2016-2017, the Minister of Health said, and I quote, "I look forward to continue to progress our agenda as government for 2016-17, and I remain committed to develop a health system in South Africa that is based on the principle of social solidarity, equity, healthcare as public good, affordability, efficiency, effectiveness, and appropriateness," unquote. This was a good statement of commitment that should have motivated all public health practitioners and public health institutions to discharge their duties with experience, expertise, patience, empathy, dependability, compassion, and absolute care. However, Prayer Hospital in the Eastern Cape looks like it does not subscribe to the minister's position. An ailing 65-year-old doctor Koncho is sitting at home waiting to die, allegedly, after he was turned away from this hospital, whose CEO could only say, quote, "It is deeply regretted that because of an underlying medical condition, he is not able to access the renal transplant program," unquote. The provincial spokesperson is alleged to have said, because of the exorbitant costs of dialysis therapy, the departmental policy prioritized young persons over the elderly. This is unconstitutional since it is discriminatory. We implore the minister to check if this is not being replicated countrywide. All of this happens while the East London court 2 days ago found that the gross negligence of this hospital has resulted in the death of another patient, Bonke Nokane. This matter has since been referred to DPP for possible criminal charges against the staff.
Thank you very
staff.
much.
Thank you.
I gave you extra seconds, but unfortunately. ANC, Mama Sihela.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. The ANC reiterates that combating crime and the scourge of women and children abuse remains its priority, and therefore welcomes the multiple sentences handed down to convicted Paediv Warren Knuop recently. He was sentenced to 32 life sentences and 170 years in prison on 870 charges of rape and possession of child pornography by Johannesburg High Court. The ANC is pleased with the sentencing, which it believes is indicative that the wheel of justice is turning, and also commend the law enforcement agencies and the justice system for the dedicated work in bringing the perpetrator to book. The ANC calls upon all communities not to tolerate atrocious crime acts, especially against children in our country, but to work with their local police stations to report any crime. As our children are the future leaders of this country, it is every citizen's duty to do more to protect our children. The ANC also calls on parents, communities, and children to encourage conversations that promote rights of children and educate them on reporting any suspicious acts or violation of their rights. Government has put in place child protection mechanisms such as legislation and international instruments that the country has ratified as a commitment to the protection of children's rights. The ANC believes that all of us
Thank you very
as
much. Your
Africans-
time has expired.
Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you. ACGP. Babun Chaisa, we am disturbed. Oh, Mama.
Thank you, Chair. At a Catholic Parliamentary Liaison Office roundtable discussion on older persons and accommodation in Cape Town this week, many spoke of old people having no voice of substance standing for them in their neglect, and concluded that resorting to the courts may now be their only option. Participants presented a litany of neglect and abuse, telling of an old age home where the custodian locks the establishment at night and goes home, leaving the elderly and frail people to fend for themselves with no emergency call and no escape should there be a fire. Many so-called homes for the elderly are established purely for access to the subsidies or pensions of old people who are then neglected and abused. The ACDP calls on parliamentary portfolio committees to exercise greater oversight in improving conditions for old people and holding departments accountable. We need to restore society's lost compassion and respect for the elderly and vulnerable. While legislation is in place, monitoring and compliance is grossly inadequate. The ACDP has been pressing for approval of the special housing needs policy and calls on Minister Sisulu once again to urgently approve the much-needed policy. In 1990, there were 53,000 beds, and today only 27,000, with many more beds being lost due to insufficient funds to maintain homes. Thank you.
Thank you. ANC. Stade Ubabukoza.
Thank you, Chairperson. The ANC believes that bullying in schools should be taken seriously following the latest incidents where video involving pupils in acts of bullying from the prestigious boys' schools in Johannesburg went viral. Bullying is outlawed and schools should adopt a zero tolerance approach in accordance with the Bill of Rights to protect the children from such abuse or degradation. In the latest video, 4 learners were involved in an altercation after one learner allegedly posted a nude photo of a cousin of one of the other learners. The ANC urges teachers and parents to make an effort to address this matter as constructively as possible. Our schools should be places of learning and teaching and not centers of bullying. It is also the responsibility of parents to regularly speak to their children about bullying and to question if they are not victims of bullying or if they know anyone who is bullied. We urge people to treat each other with respect and refrain from acts of victimization and bullying. I thank you.
Thank you. DA?
Thank you, Chairperson. Earlier today, ANC councillors cooperated with a violent invasion of the Johannesburg Council chamber and disrupted the adoption of the adjustment budget. In what was obviously a pre-planned move, the ANC asked for a caucus meeting and then led a group of violent protesters into the council chamber, smashing the front doors and the speaker desk and hurling bricks and shards of broken glass at the councillors. They threatened to kill councillors and city employees. One councillor was injured and another pregnant councillor collapsed at the scene. Now, notably, many ANC councillors arrived today in yellow jackets for the first time, similar to those worn by the protesters, and could clearly be used to distinguish between the ANC councillors and those others in the chamber. Today's incident is an assault on our democracy, and it is clear that the ANC do not accept the outcomes of free and fair elections last year. The ANC is a shadow of its former self, and it's no wonder that they were rejected by the voters of the city. I have a message for the ANC. You will not intimidate us. You will not stop us from fulfilling the mandate for change that the residents of Johannesburg have given us. This was a blatant attempt to prevent the DA-led council from passing the adjustment budget and bringing real change to the residents of Joburg. An attempt which failed, by the way. The DA will not be deterred. The people's business will be done.
Thank you. Mhlonishwa Mamkhawula EFF. Ngiqale ngegama ukuthi ukungasukumi omunye.
Awu ngiyabonga wesihlalo. Ayi wena number 1. Sihlalo ngithi angizwakalisa okukhulu ubuhlungu kwabantu basemakhaya ngaphansi komnyango wezempilo. Laphayana eMahlobo ngaphansi komnqumo municipality. Abantu bakhona sihlalo bayahlupheka. Amaklinik awekho bahamba amabanga amade behamba beya emaklinik. Akukho ngisho amamobile uqobo. Noma sebekwenzekile kukhona ofonayo ifonela iambulance. Leyo ambulance ifika ngesikhathi esilate hamba umuntu usezowashona ngani. Inkinga yakhona iambulance iyodwa ayikwazi ukuthatha umuntu oyedwa. Abantu abakhulelwe basemakhaya kwabona banazo so ngisho isikhathi lesi sitholayo emadolobheni zokuxukuza ukuthi mayizobeletha kwazi baze bagcine sebebelethele emakhaya izingane uthola ukuthi kwazona ayisasekho. Okubuhlungu kunakho konke noma befika esibhedlela lapho sithiwa isegcuwa eButterworth hospital nakhona uthola ukuthi bazohlala kuze kube kusasa udokotela munye and okubuhlungu kunakho konke utholakala ukuthi nabakhona balaliswa phansi abukhombheda akho lutho. Ngiyacela esihlalo okukhulu ukuhlonipha uthi bakithi nawo labantu basemakhaya eke bebhekelelwe ngoba ekugcineni bangabakhokhi bentela. Ngiyabonga.
ANC Mam Kikane. Hayi ufedile. Okay.
Ke a leboga modulasetulo
The ANC congratulates the medical team and the management of Unitas Hospital in Pretoria for their successful operation in separating the conjoined twin girls on 2nd January this year to 19-year-old Bongile Similela and her husband Bongile Sitlongonyane. The twin girls Uwezile and Unlengelize, who together weighed 4.21 kilograms at birth. We were born joined at the abdomen. The Sitlongonyane girls are the second set of conjoined twins that Dr. Davis and Dr. Stephen have separated and are the first to have their separation surgery done at that care hospital. The ANC wishes to acknowledge and take pride in the excellence work and higher level of competence by the Unitas Hospital doctors and the medical team during the critical 6 hours operation of separating the twins. We congratulate the hospital management and the entire medical team and support staff who participate in this operation. They have done the country proud. We further extend good wishes to the Sitlongonyane family and wish the twin long and healthy life. I thank you.
Relebo. Ahang.
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson. Honorable Chairperson, allow me to remind members how the ruling party betrayed South Africa. They gave us a man who was seduced by Shabir Sheikh, a man who's now under the spell of the Guptas. Our country is sold to the highest bidder. It is now clear that the agenda of the ANC, it is the agenda of the Guptas. They are now ravaging our state coffers in partnership with the Zulu family. Our nation is defeated by these choices and betrayed by the ANC. For the ANC to still associate itself with heroes like O.R. Tambo, Nelson Mandela, it's an insult and lack of self-criticism. Above all, they're suffering from an intellectual starvation to recognize what is bad leadership to good leadership. The biggest strategy is leaders like our Deputy President and others who have chosen to behave like arms capsules, and they call it a strategy, while it's a cowardice at its best. However, remain quiet to this mess, for them to remain quiet to this mess, betray Steve Biko, Robert Sobuke, Jafta Masamola, Dorothy Nyemba, and Moses Kotane. And further, our parliament is compromised with a crybaby Honorable Brian Molefe, who's allegedly swallowed by the Gudas. This betrayal runs...
Thank you. Your time is up.
Thank you.
ANC? Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair. The ANC welcomes the commitment by the Department of Higher Education and Training to offer funding through NSFAS to more than 400,000 students at universities and TVET colleges in the 2017 academic year. More than 500,000 school leavers are expected to take up opportunities at tertiary education institutions this year. According to the department, NSFAS will be funding 205,000 first-time entrants and continue to support eligible students at universities. Another 200,000 students at TV colleges will be funded this year, totaling 15.2 billion for both colleges and universities. NSFAS funding will benefit about 3/4 of tertiary education students this year. In 2016, a significant number of NSFAS qualifying students were financed. The ANC notes the delays in communicating the outcome of results to some of the students due to a number of challenges, such as changes in the last year's academic calendar in some institutions and missing supporting documents in a significant number of applications, amongst others. We thank you.
Thank you. GA?
The Northwest government's proposal to build a statue of President Zuma takes political crawling to a new level. The stated reason is that the multi-million rand statue built with taxpayers' money will promote social cohesion. If you've never heard hogwash before, you've heard it now. The statue is planned for the poverty-stricken Ramaturia municipality, where thousands of residents do not have access to clean, drinkable water, and where promises of proper sanitation remains just promises year after year. There's been no consultation. Only the ANC could think this would promote social cohesion. This divisive project should be seen for what it exactly is. A bid by Premier Supramoa Mapelu, a staunch supporter of President Zuma, to pay homage to Mapelu's main benefactor in the run-up to this ANC conference later this year. If Mapelu wishes to solicit favors to advance his political and business careers, he should fund it out of his own pocket and not use taxpayers' funds intended for several impoverished communities.
Thank you. ANC? We are done. Thank you. Continue,
The
ma'am.
ANC believes that development of small businesses and cooperatives are critical in the empowering of our people. Drawing new entrances, the ANC believes that such an initiative builds on commitments in society to bring black on small company businesses. The brand the new professional procurement regulations have been signed into law and will take effect from April 2017. The legislation empowers state departments and agencies to restrict certain designated tenders by stipulating minimum of PE requirements, or stipulating that tenders are agreed to establish a minimum and a 30% of categories of exempted micro enterprises.
Dankie, die tyd is nou om. Dankie baie. Dankie baie. Die tyd is nou om. Mam Paula? Tonish.
Ngiyabonga sihlalo. Khona kubuhlungu nje mangabe sithula bese kuyahlekwa, kodwa lento iyalimaza ikhombisa ukuthi abantu abaye emphakathini bayoyibonela, bayabhalela into abazokhuluma la ngaphakathi. Ngiyabonga.
Angazi ukuthi uma bekakhuluma abantu ngabe i-point of order, it is not. Anyway, order, honorable members. Order. Honorable members. Honorable members, order. Honorable members, please. Order. Honorable Zulu, please. Honorable members, can we continue? That concludes member statements. Are there any ministerial response? Who's talking now?
Africa.
Ubaba, where's Ubaba? Azufaneli lezo. Are there any ministerial responses? Can I just remind ourselves that we have 6 ministerial responses that are allowed, and each response takes 2 minutes and not more. Honorable Minister Ngakula.
Chairperson, can I just clarify something with you?
Okay.
Are there in fact 6 ministers in the House?
I don't think it's for me to count. I'm doing what is my job. And continue, Honorable Ngakula. Wait, man, what's
Thank you very
happening?
much, Honorable. Am I protected, Chair?
I can't understand what the noise is all about.
Thank you
Can
very
we
much.
continue with the House process?
Thank you very much, Comrade Chair. Comrade Chair, Honorable Chair, of course, she is a comrade. Thank you very much, Honorable Member. One Honorable Member raised a matter of education support for military veterans. In fact, they are dependents in the main. And she mentioned that currently we're at 5.8 at the cost of 14.2 million. Just to say that, in fact, that number has increased. We currently have a total of 8,700 dependents of military veterans. And of course, we had budgeted 26 million, but we are currently at 142 million. There is a rise indeed, an increase in the numbers of dependents of military veterans. However, our responsibility is to provide whatever support as long as we are able to prove that these are dependents of military veterans. But what we have done here is to put a ceiling. We currently give 42,500 to each one of the dependents who are at basic education level. And at the level of higher education and training, we've kept it and we have a ceiling of 72,000. But of course, we do encourage particularly those who are at higher education level to apply to NSFAS as well so that they can be assisted. Chair, all of this is happening because there are challenges in the policy which we have. We're in the process of developing new one. The biggest challenge is that we established a department before we could actually pass legislation and determine which one of the services we would like to provide in assisting our military veterans. We've also decided that from next year we'll have a means test so that we all agree who actually, even though we are all military veterans, who exactly gets what amount of money, because capping it at 42.5 for basic education and 72 for higher education still is rather too much. For instance, for a person who is employed, who earns a good salary, like myself, there is no way in which I can expect to get the same amount as a person who's destitute. Thank you, Chairperson. The second response, it is time for one
Can you please
statement.
take your seat? Can I give the others and then you can come back for the other response? Honorable Deputy Minister Chohan.
Thank you, Chairperson. Several of the statements made by members touch on the theme of good citizenship. Whether it is the statement on bullying and cyberbullying at schools and amongst teenagers, or whether it is in fact the abuse of our senior citizens at old age homes, I do think it is cause for us to reflect as leaders in our society. Our Constitution does, after all, require us to build a caring and a tolerant society. And whether one is a councillor or whether one is an MP, we are enjoined to behave in a manner that contributes to nation building and building a South Africa that is both caring as well as tolerant. We as South Africans, I think, are capable of being formidable. We are capable of good things. We are capable of being bigger people and the kind of people envisaged in our Constitution. Not bullies, and certainly not people who abuse senior members in this House. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Honorable Zulu, the Minister Zulu.
Chairperson.
Honorable Zulu, please take your seat for a while. What is your point of order, Honorable Paulson?
Chairperson, the Executive PA of Home Affairs has
I-
said...
That's not a point of order to start with. We don't have such a person. Please take your seat.
No,
We don't have such a person.
She accuses us of bullying here.
Honorable
She must know
member,
this isn't the schoolyard.
that's not a point of order, and we don't have such. So that is as well as not said. Honorable Zulu.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chair. First and foremost, I would like to say that Honorable November, apologize on your behalf that we have people in the House who are political vagabonds, who stand up and insult others. So Ma'am November is not a political vagabond, and therefore I will read for you because I know why you were struggling. The ANC believes that the development of small business and cooperatives are critical in the empowerment of our
Order, Chair.
drawing new entrants into the economy,
Honorable
strengthening
Minister,
inclusive growth.
Honorable Minister, please take your seat. Yes, Honorable Member.
Chairperson, the duty of the minister or the deputy minister at this time is to give us responses, not to read statements of members.
Thank you.
She is not allowed to do
Thank
what she's doing. She's abusing us.
That's good. Continue, Honorable Minister.
Thank you very much. The NC believes that such an initiative builds on commitments in society to bring black-owned businesses. and
Honorable
cooperatives.
Minister, take your
The
seat.
reason why-
Honorable Kalyan. Yes.
House Chairperson, as you heard previously from the previous speaker, it is the responsibility of the Minister to respond to a statement. Minister Zulu is now rereading a statement from a member who was rather incompetent. Now, I'd suggest that you would
Honorable
rule
member,
this
that's
because
not
the
the
time
point
for
of order.
statements is over.
Honorable members, maybe I missed that part. I hear what you're saying. Can you please respond to the statements that were made in the House, Honorable Minister?
I can, Honorable
Thank you.
Speaker. The fact of the matter is that it's not correct also for political vagabonds to insult our own.
Thank you. Continue with the response.
The fact of the matter is that as the statement was read, it is true that this government of the African National Congress and my department in particular has signed transversal agreements with the relevant departments to make sure that small and medium enterprises are empowered, especially youth, women, and black. And that the 30% procurement that Honorable November was speaking to, it is a 30% procurement that has been in the pipeline for a very long time, and we are happy as a Department of Small Business Development that finally this is going to be implemented. Thirdly, we also would like to say to all members of the African National Congress and the executive in particular, as well as the private sector, it's time for them to open up the space. When we speak of Operation Vula in the economy of the country, we are speaking about opening for small and medium enterprises. I thank you.
Thank you. What is your order, Honorable Filton?
It is not acceptable for the ANC to be so uncaring for some of its members.
That's not a point of order, Honorable Filtani. We do have point of debates. I think the point was raised and the minister I was advised to respond to the statements. Thank you.
Madam House.
I know. Oh, is that a point of order, Honorable Karen?
It is a point of order. I wish to ask you to rule on the term political vagabond. Is that parliamentary or unparliamentary? And if it is parliamentary, I would submit that it takes one political vagabond to know another.
No, now you are also saying it, which means if I have to make a ruling, I'll be ruling on you and on the Senate. Thank you very much. I will look into the matter. I will look into that. I am not sure of the weight, but we have conversions, and then we will look as to whether the weight has been used before, and if it was ruled unparliamentary, that we will look into. Thank you.
Next to you, please.
Thank you very much. I think we are done with this part. I will
Yes.
look into it, and then we'll rule on
I'm
it.
not on this part, House
Okay.
Chair. Earlier on in the proceedings, but I didn't want to disturb the Honourable Minister. Honourable Paulson of the EFF did refer to the Deputy Minister of Housing as Deputy Minister of Home Affairs that she is a PA, impugning her dignity and her deployment. That that you rule on Honourable Paulson's unfounded and undesirable pronouncement, House Chair. We cannot accept it. Thank you. He must withdraw it.
The thing is, I did rule on that matter and said there was no point of order, so it is not taken. Thank you. We continue. Honorable members.
Member, can I address you and request you to apologize? Because when you have not heard what a member is asking you, you should say so. I told you that the minister is rereading the statement, you dismissed me. And then a member of the DA tells you the same thing, you overrule it.
Okay.
So you need to apologize when you have not heard what was said. Do not just dismiss us.
Thank you, is done. Yes, honorable member.
Thank you, Chair. Ndicela ukuthi ndilungise le ndawo ingathi nguwe lo wenza uba le ndlu mayingalawuleki. Okokuqala xa
Honourable member,
uphakama
that's not
inamba
a point of
ye-ANC
order.
awuyibuzi uba iphakama ngeyiphi order. Xa kuthetha
I've stopped
i-opposition
doing that
party
with your members. Can you please take your
ndicela
seat?
into yobana siplite ngendlela eyi-one apha endlini.
Nawe awukatsho nje ngivumela ukhuluma njani baba. Dala ngiyeyile le nto le because I think you need reminders. I said so. I said I'm going to leave it because you need to be reminded. And I've not been doing it all along. Thank you very much. We now have Honorable Masuku to respond.
I'm coming from Malanga. Ukulungisa komgwaqo uP46-1 osuka eMeyaton uvela lapha eAlberton uye eKatlehong usifaka esigabeni esilandelayo sedelivery yethu ye-infrastructure ekhuluma ngokulinka i-delivery yethu ukuthi be-integrated, ukulinka ama-rural nama-urban areas nokulinka i-economy yakuma-rural nakuma-cities. Lo mgwaqo lona uconnecta ama-industries wase-City Bay nase-Buruleni okusho ukuthi the recognition yalento leyo ayikhuluma upresident nalesi ikhulumayo ukuthi indawo zama-urban areas qala ukukhula by 400 household a year. Okusho ukuthi uma sikhonekta lo mgwaqo lo wenza ukuthi kube ne-connection between economic activities eziku-rural areas nasemakhaya. Into futhi esijabulisayo ke ehambisana nale nqubo ye-infrastructure development ukuthi iGauteng iphende yabeka ilanga lokuthi umgwaqo uphela nini. Kubaluleke kakhulu ke lokho ngoba yiko ukuhlala kwe-infrastructure isikhathi eside kusikhosa imali eningi. So lo uthi iGauteng ibeke u-August wa this year kuyasijabulisa thina ngoba imali kusho ukuthi izawongeka siphinde sakhe amanye ama-infrastructure. Siyabonga.
Siyabonga. Honorable Ngakula. Mama Ngakula.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. Honorable members, I thought that we all know that if you are a voter, you have a right to be voted for. All of us are here because South Africans voted. Not only that, but parties also have a right to amend their lists. And in my understanding, in this case, the ANC too has a right to amend its list to Parliament. Irrespective of what you may believe or whether you believe that the person who has come in should have been here or not, but I think it is proper that you do not, Mama Kaume, him. It is the right of an individual to choose whether he or she wants to serve in Parliament or not. And I think here we made choices, and that is the reason why he too has made a choice to be deployed to Parliament. Thank you very much.
That concludes the ministerial responses. Thank you very much. The last item on the order paper is notices of motion. Does any member of the of ANC wish to give a notice of a motion? Amasihela, you're up.
Ke a leboga moswara modulasetulo wa rena. Ke šišinya gore legato la mokgatlo o mogolo wa African National Congress gore mo tulong ye latelago ntlo ye e boledišane ka mekgwanakgwana e ka šomišago gore re hafole ditlamorago tša maatla a madimo a šišago mmogo le dipula tša matlorotloro yeo di diragalago ditšhaba tša rena tša dikobo bahetleng. Ke a leboga modulasetulo.
Re a leboga, DA.
Thank you, Chair. I hereby move on behalf of the Democratic Alliance that its next sitting, this House debates the fact that the last festive season road crash statistics increased by over 1,700 compared to the previous festive season. The reasons for this and what should be done to improve the situation. Thank you.
Thank you. EFF.
Ndiphakama egameni le-EFF ndiphakamisa ukuba le ndlu ixoxe lo mba ushushu ngokulandelayo. Umasipala waseBizana owaziwa ngorhwaphilizo nobuqhetseba kunye nobusela bemali yerhafu. Umasipala waseBizana emva kweminyaka eli-15 wahlulekile ukuzisa umbane kwilali yakwa-116 apho abahlali begqibele ngokuvala indlela iveki yonke befuna ukufakelelwa umbane. Umasipala waseBizana ubafunisa abantu neenkomo nezilwanyana ezingafanelwanga umbane. Umasipala uyahluleka uzisa iinkonzo eluntwini ezifana namanzi nezindlu zangasese ezinedima kunye nombane. Nkosi.
Inkosi. ANC, Babukhoza.
Thank you, Chairperson. I hereby move on behalf of the ANC that in its next sitting, the House debates radical economic transformation in order for people to ensure that they become more prosperous. Thank you.
Thank you. IFP.
Ngiyathokoza ukuxoxa sihlalo. On behalf of the Inkatha Freedom Party, I shall move at the next of this House that the House debates the lack of funding for sports development infrastructure in townships and rural areas, particularly to ensure that young people thrive in sports and recreation. So move. Ngizwakala nje. On behalf of the National Freedom Party, I move that at the next sitting of this Honorable House, the members deliberate on the issue of the general lack of transparency in government continued failure to release statistics on rhino poaching in South Africa and its implications for nature conservation and the fight against rhino poaching. I so move.
Sithokoze ANC Makekana.
Mudula Sitilo, I hereby move on behalf of ANC that in its next sitting, the House debates tackling discrimination and oppression in whatever form it takes, whether in the home, in the workplace, in the institutions of state or on social media. I thank you.
Raleboga, UDM.
Thank you, Chair. I hereby move on behalf of the UDM that the House in its next debate, it should debate the consequences of the lack of funding and the lack of employment opportunities for agricultural students and graduates in the economy. In the Eastern Cape, 500 graduates wrote an aptitude test for only 5 posts. I so move.
Raleboga, FF plus, let me just call it, not here. GA.
Thank you, Chairperson. I hereby move on behalf of the Democratic Alliance that its next sitting, this House debates how the Minister of Social Development has broken the social grant system. I so move.
Raleboga, EFF.
Modula Stulo ke malebitso la mokgatlo Economic Freedom Fighters. Re ntlo e tle e qoqe mohlang kopanang. Tlalo ya manyofonyofo a tjhelete ka loka 570 million ya dairy ya dikgomo mane provinceng ya Freystata e kentseng tshenyego ko le tshebediso empe ya ditjhelete le ho hlatswa koka ha tjhelete money laundering ke lapa la Guptas Msebenzi Zwane le Ace Magashule.
Raleboga, ANC. Yes, ma.
Thank you, Chair. I hereby move on behalf of the ANC that in its next sitting, the House debates celebrating the extraordinary life and supreme contribution of Oliver Reginald Tambo towards the attainment of our freedom in South Africa. I so move.
Thank you. Cope, not chair, confirmed. ACGP, not chair. ANC. Yes.
Thank you, Chairperson. I hereby move on behalf of ANC that in its next sitting, the House debates expanding access to quality higher education for most South Africans from poor communities. I thank you.
Raleboga, AIC. Siyadlula, Ahang SA. Babu Nchais. Kubeka baba.
Honorable Chairperson, I hereby move on behalf of the AIC that this House in its next sitting debates the ways and means of how to prepare people to take center stage in governance. I so move. Thank you.
Sithokoze. Ahang. Ni here ni. ANC this side.
Thank you, House Chair. I hereby move on behalf of the African National Congress that in its next sitting, the House debates promoting local economic development, particularly in centers where there is great potential for localization and empowerment. I thank you, Chair.
Thank you. APC, Nirni. PAC, Nirni. GA. Dr. Fik.
Thank you, House Chairperson. I hereby move on behalf of the Democratic Alliance that at its next sitting, this House debates ways to reduce the national debt from 2.2 trillion rand, which constitutes 50.7% of GDP, so that the costs used to service this debt can rather be used for the benefit of the lost generation. I thank you.
Thank you. ANC Pule.
Thank you, Chairperson. I hereby move on behalf of the ANC that in its next sitting, the House debate intensifying industrial incentive programs, establishing special economic zone and investing in infrastructure in order to create more jobs and for the people of South Africa. Thank you, Chair.
Re a leboga. Oh, ke ya mafelelo ya di notices of motion, go ya ka magoro a Setswana, naga e lale.